Testing.
Organized before I call it to order, probably.
Maybe a minute or so.
Give it a minute.
Yeah, I won't go over to you. Thank you.
What are we at right now?
36
Okay,
and 37.
37.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Are those be turned
I will call the meeting to order at 6:04. And welcome all, and we really appreciate both the in-person turnout and all the written comments received. Just want to take a moment to go over the basic structure of the meeting before we dive into our standard agenda items and then the actual hearing.
Can't hear. Let's see.
Testing.
Louder. Electric numbers. Which one of the numbers have to be?
2.
It should be all the way out. Let's see. I'm just kidding. A little closer to the mic, maybe.
Great. So we'll handle our standard agenda items. And then as we get into the public hearing, we'll have a presentation by staff, followed by questions from the commission, presentation by the applicant, followed by questions by the commission, public comment, for which we'll allocate time evenly. We have 38 public commenters at this time. And so we'll provide 2 minutes for each speaker, but ask that, comments not be repeated. If you concur with someone, just say, value added to that particular item and try and keep it to unique items as much as possible, just in the interest of hearing what everyone has to say and giving equal opportunity for all to be heard. And, I think just to start this meeting, we appreciate your patience in advance and also your community spirit throughout this hearing. With that, I think the next step is our Pledge of Allegiance and then roll call. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Campbell. Here. Commissioner Kump. Here. Vice Chair Sarkia.
Here.
And Chair Reese.
Here. Do we have any reordering of the agenda today?
No reordering this evening.
Thank you. No presentations. That brings us to approval of the prior meeting's minutes. Do we have any comments or adjustments to the minutes from the
None.
June 5th hearing? None.
I move to approve the minutes. I second.
Okay, for the approval of the last Planning Commission minutes, Commissioner Campbell.
Aye.
Commissioner Kump.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sarkia.
Aye.
Chair Reese.
Aye. Public comment. So this is public comment for anything that a member of the audience wishes to address to the Planning Commission that is for items not on the agenda today. And this is your time to do so. No action will be taken on these items at the meeting. I presume that none of the speaker slips were for.
I have received no speaker slips for items not on the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have any? Thank you all. Okay. Consent calendar, none. Continued public hearings, none. And that brings us to the item that everyone is here for today. So I'll turn it over to staff.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. This evening's item, pardon me, get my agenda to the right place here, is a public hearing. Public hearing item is resolution number 25-07, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Buellton, California, approving a conditional use permit 25 CUP-01 to establish a private elementary educational facility located at 202, 208, 212, and 218 Dairyland Road. Assessor's parcel numbers 0996660, 035, 034, 033, and 032, and making findings in support thereof. I'm going to ask Irma Tucker, our planner, to in Planning Director Andrea Kiefer's stead, to give the presentation to the Planning Commission. At the conclusion of her presentation, I'd like to add some remarks for the benefit of the Commission and for the public, and we can proceed from there. Okay, Irma? You're on mute. We can't hear you. I'm sorry.
There
There.
we go. Thank you. I just was trying to make sure that my my display was showing, and it's not.
Not yet. Let's try it.
Yeah, I tried. Okay.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. Is that correct now?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, Scott, and good evening, Chair Reese and members of the Planning Commission. As Scott indicated, the matter before you this evening is consideration of an application for a conditional use permit for private elementary school that would be located on a portion of the city-owned Williamson property, located at 202, 208, 212, 218 Dairyland Road.
Hold on.
Irma, can you just take a pause real quick? We're going to check the audio.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Rose, do you know how this ties in with our, it's
That's
not,
to the speakers. So
yeah, and it's apparently not going to the outside here.
There's a knob
They're turned all the way up.
Oh.
They can hear it outside, but not this. So
that's going on here.
I'll tell you, well, let's see. Let's see. Irma, you want to speak again for something here?
Okay. Well, I put up the next slide, which should be showing as the vicinity map with the project highlighted in the center. Can you hear me okay?
Probably not outside. I don't know what we can do about that. No, not at this point.
I can show this like people out there and they can have audio from their phones. City TV.
City TV, yeah. All right, let me just explain. So for anyone outside,
It's,
yeah, that,
it's the audio source.
yeah, the audio coming over Zoom isn't showing up. So for those of you who are outside and you want to hear what's going on and see what's going on, if you have your phone out, you can go to our city's website, cityofbuellton.com. Go to click on government, click on city council, and go to city TV. There may be a shorter way to get there, but that's how I know to get there. And it will call up our council meeting or the commission meeting here, which is in progress. And you should be able to see and hear it online. Okay. Just a couple seconds more here, Irma. I think we.
Okay.
There's going to be let them know there'll be
Yeah.
delayed.
Okay. Yeah. So when you get that up online, there will be a delay between what's going on in here and what you're hearing out there of a second or two, probably. So don't, you are hearing it almost live. Okay, Irma, you want to proceed?
Okay, thank you. I actually have a screen that shows the council chamber, and I have another screen that shows my presentation, and a third screen with my Zoom on it. So all good to go. So continuing on, this slide shows the project location. It's a 0.68 acre site, city-owned property, located with the surrounding uses being the Meadow Ridge neighborhood, the Ranch Club Mobile Estates. The Riverview Park is to the south and to the west of here, and the San Ynez River is beyond. The wastewater treatment plant is down at the bottom of the image. The project is located right here where the arrow is pointing. That's the topmost portion of the Williamson property. And the zoning on this particular site, which consists of 3 separate parcels, which are being considered as one, since the city owns all of it. The zoning on the site is for single family. It's at RS6. And schools, elementary is an allowed use in the RS zone via a conditional use permit. So the proposal is for a Waldorf-inspired private school that would be serving preschool, including parent-child classes, through grade 4. There are proposed to be 4 classrooms and 1 administrative building, as well as a restroom building. The hours of operation for the school would be Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. The classes would operate from between 8:30 and 3 o'clock. So drop-offs would occur between those times, between 8:30 and 9, and pickups would be between 3 and 4. There is a maximum of 50 students envisioned for the campus, and this would occur in phases. In the beginning years, there would be a smaller number of classrooms as the school ramps up its operation, and new grades would be added each school year. There is a 5-foot perimeter fence included, primarily for security. Then it has an entry gate with a small sign. There's a central flagpole and a plaza area as well, and there will be some images later that show this site plan. Parking would be provided on the lower parking lot in the Williamson property. 10 spaces are provided, and this is consistent with the 10 spaces that are required per code for the school. Vehicle access is via Sycamore Drive through the East Riverview parking lot and access road. And all drop-offs must occur in the lower Williamson parking lot. The only exception to this is the one ADA space that would be provided on the upper area near the school. There will be a shuttle service provided by the school as an option for students to access the site, or they can walk up to the upper level, which is where the school is located from the parking lot. The final shuttle route would be determined by the city. The length of approval for this permit shall not exceed 5 years from the date of approval. Subsequent to this meeting, there will be another city council meeting to approve a license agreement, and this will determine the exact length of the operation of the school on this site. So this is intended to be a temporary use for the site, in essence, an incubator site until the school gets established and they can then move on to permanent quarters. The buildings planned for the site are yurt structures with a maximum height of 16 feet 3 inches, and this is well below the 30-foot maximum allowed in the RS zone. Exterior lighting on the buildings is proposed, as well as pathway bollard lighting. The lighting would all need to provide fully shielded fixtures to reduce lighting impacts to the neighborhood, the adjacent property, as well as protect dark skies. The yurt structures do share some characteristics of the agrarian design style approved in the city's community design guidelines. So they appear to be compatible in that regard with the general design intent for the area, as well as the surrounding neighborhood. This is viewed as a good layout for the site and a good utilization for it. The temporary use would allow for the site to be returned to its original state at the end of the occupation by the school. So as far as signage goes, there's one small sign on the plans. A separate sign approval would be required for any signs. A fence exemption is required for the 5-foot perimeter fence at the front property line along Dairyland Road. Typically, a maximum height of fencing from property lines in the RS zone is 3 feet. However, the 5-foot perimeter fence in this particular case is looked upon as providing the necessary privacy and security for the school. And the rationale for this is discussed in greater length in the staff report. For stormwater, a Tier 1 permit is required, and the conditions of approval address these requirements. So this is a chart that shows consistency determination with development standards. This is typical analysis we do for proposed projects, and this particular use is consistent with the development standards for the site. If there's any questions on this, I am please ask and I will go through some of them. This is the site plan showing the location of the yurts. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yurts here with flagpole in the center and a small yard area around it. The existing trees on the site as well as the lawn area have been preserved. And this provides shade for the site, for the children, the students, and it preserves as much of the site as possible. This is a closer view of the site layout, and it also shows some of the light fixtures that are being proposed. These are the elevations for the yurts. And this is an extended view of the site surroundings, a little more of a close-up than previously seen. So if you can see my cursor on the right, this is the location of the proposed 100 Hills School. This is the currently our city's new library and the community building, which was previously the old Williamson residence. This is the old barn, which is anticipated to be used for an event center. And this area, cursor keeps fading here, but this area is being proposed for use by the San Ynez Valley Children's Museum, as well as down into this wooded area down here. So this constitutes the upper portion of the Williamson property, and at a lower grade below, which can be accessed via a walkway here, or it can be accessed, you can follow my cursor, through via Sycamore Drive through access to the east park, to the west parking lot for the Riverview Park through this access road. And shown here in gray is the new parking lot that is being built, which proposes, I believe, 112 parking spaces. And beyond this location to the west is Riverview Park. And the Williamson property itself is considered an addition to the city's existing Riverview Park. The following 2 slides are renderings of the proposed school campus. In compliance with CEQA, environmental review was conducted and an addendum was prepared. This is an addendum to the initial study mitigated negative declaration that was approved for the Williamson addition to Riverview Park project. So this addendum number 1 addresses the proposed 100 Hills School project. Note that the addendum, the initial study, and mitigated declaration concluded that environmental impacts have been adequately addressed. There are no new impacts resulting from the proposed use, and applicable mitigation measures are included by reference as conditions of approval for the project. So the recommendation before the Planning Commission this evening is to consider the adoption of resolution number 2507. And I would like to point out here that there has been a slight modification to the title of the resolution, and the text in red below shows the addition. We just needed to include reference to the ISM&D addendum number 1. So that it goes in so that it is associated with the project approval. So the complete wording for the approval motion is before you on the screen here. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Scott Wolf has some additional comments to make at this point. So I will turn this over to him And at the conclusion of his remarks, both of us will be able to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Irma. Madam Chair, members of the commission, I want to go over just a couple of items here. And these items are not necessarily as much for your benefit as they are for the benefit of the public. We have a number of factors involved in this project that aren't typically involved in other projects by virtue of the fact that this project is on city property. As a result of that, there are these factors I really want to talk about. Again, for the public's benefit, not necessarily your benefit, but because so many of these issues have been brought up by members of the public and in conversations with myself and others at the city, it's worth bringing them up just for everyone's identification right up front. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Surplus Lands Act. The Surplus Lands Act is a piece of legislation, it's a piece of state law, and among other things, it requires cities and counties and school districts, et cetera, to identify what the state defines as surplus lands. And those would be lands that, in this case, the city would own that it does not have an established plan for. We have, because of the configuration of this property, we purchased it as one large block of property, but it was in fact subdivided into actually five different parcels. What we've seen right now is, or what we're up against right now, is the possibility that the state may come through and identify the three parcels that are proposed to be developed by this school and identify them as surplus land. And if that happens, we are required to list them on, put them on a list that is maintained by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. And then they take that list and they circulate that list to housing developers all over the place. So the big question mark right now in everyone's mind is, will these lots need to be placed on that list? There are two possible answers to that. If the school site is in fact constructed here and the license agreement has been granted for the next 5 or less years, then no, it will not have to go on that list for the duration of that license agreement. But once that license agreement is up, it may need to go on that list. The other answer, which is a little more troubling to everyone, including myself, is I don't know. If the school is not approved on this site, the city attorney and myself and the city council will really have some work ahead of us in terms of trying to designate this property as something so that it's not placed on that list and circulated to housing developers. I only bring this up because I know it will be brought up by members of the public, both in opposition to and in favor of the project. And I want to make clear to the Planning Commission that from city staff's perspective, from the perspective of both the planning department, the city attorney's office, and the city manager, there is a considerable degree of uncertainty as to what the outcome of that will be. So I don't want the commission to necessarily consider the outcome of this project based upon that potential. We don't know what it is. That potential in and of itself is really outside of the scope of what the Planning Commission typically reviews, which is consistency with our general plan and our zoning ordinance and those sorts of documents. But it is relevant in that there is some concern about it, and you should at least be aware of what we're talking about here. There are other items, again, which will fall outside of the Planning Commission's typical scope. If we get too far into that, I may jump in and remind the commission or advise the commission of that. I'm going to try and head off a number of those right now. We received an email. It is included in your packet, several packets of emails that have been received over the past couple of days. This particular one asked a series of questions that were particularly complete in terms of the general list of questions we're hearing from most of the residents. And so I'm hopeful that by reading these out, we can dispense with a lot of the discussion of most of these because most of these are kind of outside the scope of what the Planning Commission is looking at tonight. So with your indulgence, I'm going to read through these questions and give you very brief answers. I'll be happy to elaborate on any of them if you'd like. Okay. The first question, please confirm or deny that a contract has been negotiated and signed for this property between the city and the possible lessor. I can advise everyone that there is no contract at this point. If a contract is to be signed, it must be approved in open session of the city council. And that open session of the city council cannot, or the approval of that contract cannot happen until the planning commission has reached a decision one way or another. And if it's appealed to the city council, then the city council has made a decision on the conditional use permit. Only at that time can they then turn around and consider the contract. Number two, please confirm or deny that any legally binding agreement, including an MOU, has been entered into between the two entities or is imminent. Again, no. An MOU or anything of the sort would need to be approved in open session. That has not happened. We will not have an MOU. We will have what's referred to as a license agreement. For anybody other than a municipality, we call that a lease agreement, but for some reason we refer to it as a license. That would necessarily have to take place after a decision on the planning committee, or excuse me, on the conditional use permit before this evening has taken place. Number three, what is the fee being paid by this organization for the lease and under what terms? What is the intention of applying these fees within the community? We do not have a fee yet. That is still under negotiation until the city council makes a decision on it. It is something that as the negotiator for the city, I am unable to comment on in any regard, because until the council brings it up in open session, I'm precluded by law from talking about that. But there is no agreement at this point. And in terms of the intention for applying these fees within the community, that's up to the city council, and they'll have to make that decision at such time as it comes forward. I can tell you that the funds that come from any sort of license agreement on this or any other property that the city has are applied to the city's general fund. They cannot be used for things like wastewater or water projects. So this would be for general community use, general city use, and the city council will determine how best to use those funds. Number four, what is the specific plan for parking for on-site staff? The parking lot that you've seen up on the screen that was part of Irma's presentation is the parking lot for students and staff. It is accessed exclusively from Sycamore Drive through Riverview Park. There is no provision for staff parking on site, with the possible exception of, as Irma mentioned, the single ADA space that's been provided, which must by law be provided for that use. Number five, what is the traffic mitigation plan for parents dropping off and picking up children? The mitigation plan is that they will park in the parking lot down below. There will be no gate from the campus onto Dairyland Road. The gate will enter in the direction of the barn on the Williamson property. And beyond just the site design and our requirements for the license on the property, should that be approved, the conditional use permit, I believe, also contains a condition which requires the applicants to place in their agreement that they have with their with the parents of their students that they will drop off down below, and failure to do so will result in penalties up to and including expulsion from the school. So, you know, there's no guarantee that someone wouldn't necessarily want to drop somebody off, but it would be quickly, there would be remedies for that if it were to happen. Number six, and there are only 7 here. So number 6, has anyone determined the loss of revenue to the local public school district when up to 50 students are no longer enrolled, given that they are dependent on enrollment for funding? Not, will this be done before any final contract is finalized? The answer to that is no. To my knowledge, it's not. The loss of revenue to the school district because of a school such as this is not really something that can be determined unless the assumption is that all 50 students that would attend this school ultimately would come from the city of Buellton and one of the two districts. As the commission may be aware, there are a number of alternative educational opportunities within the valley already. There are a couple of charter schools. There are a number of private schools for which a considerable number of Buellton residents already avail themselves. There are also homeschooling groups. All of these types of uses will remove students from the enrollment of our local school district, and that's really not something that the city can base its decision upon. So given the nebulous nature of the impact and the fact that it's not really within the city's purview to make that consideration, we have not done so. And lastly, how will the city address the anticipated negative impact of property value for local residents, and how might this impact the long-term budget for the city? So there has been no discussion or consideration of a negative impact of property value. As the Planning Commission is aware, your decision is based upon city policy. While the city council can consider such things as property values, generally its decisions are based on something larger than that. On top of this, I can tell you that I've done some research into this, and generally speaking, there's no clear consensus that a school such as this would lower property values. In most cases, the proximity to a school, even a school that most of the residents wouldn't be able to attend, tends to be a plus for the property owners. In our particular instance, we have such a small community. Much of the community is within a half mile of our elementary schools already. Schools within a half a mile of an elementary or a middle school of the local district tend to have higher property values as a rule than schools that are not there. So we're already looking at a situation where property values are elevated by virtue of the public schools. It's unclear what, if any, impact there would be from the private school. And the research doesn't seem to indicate anything one way or another. So those are the answers to the questions that I've been asked with this particular email. As the commission moves through public comments tonight, if you have other issues you'd like me to address along the way, I'm happy to do so. Otherwise, I'm going to conclude my remarks. Ms. Tucker and I will be happy to answer any questions the commission has.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Before we jump into questions by the commission for staff prior to the presentation by the applicant, I just want to close the loop. We kind of got derailed when talking about public comment earlier, but after public comment, we'll have closing comments by staff and or the applicant if applicable, and then comments by the commission and deliberations, just to clear that up. So with that, why don't we go through
Sure.
in order with any questions for staff?
Question for Scott.
Yes.
You mentioned the Surplus Lands Act.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any definitions of what kind of like housing elements could be possible for that land? I know it's a possibility, but
It's a possibility. Again, my purpose here is not to be alarmist in this regard, but the state in the last 15 years or so has become very loose with, well, put it this way, has forced the city to become very loose with how it deals with housing development. What we have there, you can tell by looking at it, are essentially three single-family lots. They were subdivided, I'm assuming, as part of the original subdivision that formed the neighborhood here. They were portioned off and given to the Williamsons, or as part of the arrangement that was made. The Williamsons acquired those three parcels. They have not as yet been developed. That being said, the state could look at this and say, oh, you've got three single-family lots there. That's what you should be building there. The state, though, as we've seen through our housing element process last year, tends to look at what the state law says and then tends to interpret it in a very unpredictable manner, let's say that. And so it is entirely possible that if a developer came in and say, I wanted to build affordable housing, all affordable housing, then the lot lines themselves could become irrelevant, the lot sizes could become irrelevant, and we would be looking at whatever through state law mechanisms they could justify placing on the site in terms of intensity. you know, I wouldn't even want to hazard a guess. We're talking about maybe a half an acre between the three, no, a little over half an acre, almost 2/3 of an acre.
Yeah.
Between that, you know, our maximum general plan density, or zoning density rather, is 16 units per acre. But I know that the state, through the Housing and Community Development Department, doesn't consider anything less than 30 units an acre to be affordable. So that's all the guidance I can give you on that.
Does anyone else have any questions regarding that topic?
I do. Was when the city purchased the properties, did you buy all 4 parcels together in one?
Yes, they were bought. Well, there was actually 5. There were the 4 up above, and the large piece down below where the horse stables are at. The 20-acre parcel was a part of that. We purchased it as a unit, as a single lot. And at the time it was purchased, the city council didn't know what to do with it. At that time, I don't believe that the Surplus Land Act required cities to provide this list that it does now. It may have, it's entirely possible, but I wasn't aware of it at the time. I found out about it about 2 years ago at a conference. And even then it didn't click with me that this project was, or this property was potentially included, until we started talking about what do we do in addition to the library and the Children's Museum. And then it kind of occurred to me, well, wait a minute, these are different lots. The state may have a different way to look at this. So yes, we purchased it all as one. It's always been intended by the city to remain as a single unit here. The question is whether or not the state will agree with that intent.
Have you ever talked about a lot merger?
We could, and we will. One way or another, we will merge the lots, but that doesn't necessarily remove the state. You know, the state's going to go back and look and see, this is what it was when you bought it. This is, you know, because I'll just be real honest. The reason HCD, the Housing Community Development Department, is being this way about how it interprets things is because for the last 25, 30 years, cities have been real sneaky about how they get around the requirements. And some of the things they'll do is they'll merge lots when no one's looking, or they'll make changes. And now the state's gotten wise to it and said, we're not putting up with that anymore. I'd like to say, yes, there's something definitively we can do right now to preclude this entirely, but I know that wouldn't be honest. I think there are things we can do that would reduce the threat or the risk, but there is a risk. And that's about all I can say to that.
And the parcels have been historically owned before you purchased it as one unit.
Well, they've been historically owned by one family, but they've been separate units since the early 90s, or separate lots since the early 90s.
But one property.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another question for Scott. Was the lease or license of this property made available and advertised to everyone?
It has not yet, because the negotiations on the lease license hasn't been finished yet. One of the provisions of the license agreement will be that the conditions of approval of the conditional use permit, if approved, will become part of the license agreement. But in the end, I will present that to the city council, and then, they'll have time to review it. The public will have time to review it, and then they'll make a decision on it whenever they have their meeting on that.
I guess my question also is, how did 100 Hills know that this property was available for lease?
It was not available for lease. We did not advertise it. We didn't put it out there. What happened, there was a series of meetings. The founders of the school had come to me probably close to a year ago and asked about using the barn for the school. Given the condition of the barn, I said, that's not going to work. They talked about the area down below where the parking lot is being constructed. I said, that's down in a floodplain. That's not going to work. And I gave them some sites locally here to go look at. And they went and looked at sites. And maybe 6 months after that, they came back and said, look, we've exhausted all of our locations. Is there anything that we can look at that might allow us to open a school in the fall? I looked at the city's map, and it occurred to me that if the city council were willing to entertain an offer, this might be a location. I brought it to the city council. They said, well, let's see what they have to say. And that's where we're at right now. So.
That's good. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Just remind me again, the conditional use permits, they run with the land. Is that right?
They do run with the land. However, in this particular instance, because this is a public publicly city-owned land, not just publicly owned, but in particularly city-owned, the city has control over that, and therefore the license agreement will, in its language, if the conditional use permit is approved, require that the conditional use permit be null and void at such time as the license agreement expires, and the conditions of the CUP will reflect that as well.
And so it can be transferred, or
During the 5-year period, it's possible it could be transferred. The conditions would remain. But at the end of that 5-year period, or 58 months, whatever the license agreement winds up being, it would be, it would expire. And the way the Surplus Land Act is written, it cannot be renewed.
okay, so it can't be renewed or amended.
Nope.
Okay.
That 5-year period is the end. But essentially what the state wants to ensure is that cities don't dodge their responsibility to provide land for housing by continuously just leasing out property to somebody else.
And has there been a traffic study done? I think maybe.
There has, yes. There was a traffic study done on the original development of the site, and then we had a supplemental traffic study done, including the plans for the school.
Thank you.
Okay. So I looked at the site over there. I was thinking that was going to be the parking lot that the library desperately needs for the community.
Mm-hmm. That was something that was talked about very early on. But it was the city council made very clear that it was not their desire to have the traffic for that site driving through the neighborhood to get there. The intent has been, since the property was really purchased, the intent of the council has been to take access down Sycamore Drive through Riverview Park, which is why the parking lot's under construction.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Speaking of the parking lot, currently under construction, do we have an estimate for when it will be completed?
September, October?
Phase 1 is about September, October timeframe, and then phase 2 be several months after that, but as soon as we get our permits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Phase 2 is the orange section on the screen, which is a crossing of the storm drain channel that comes out of that. We have to get environmental permits through the state to construct phase 2. So.
Understood. And if their plan for drop-offs is contingent on using that parking lot, but it may not be ready by the start of the school year, is there a contingency plan?
The contingency for that would be that they would walk and or shuttle their students in that short period between the time classes would open until the parking lot is complete from the Riverview Park parking lot.
Okay, understood. Thank you. And then we talked a little bit about how the lease would be negotiated and entered into with the city via the city council in public session or open session. But can you explain what would happen if no lease is approved, even if the permit is approved?
If the conditional use permit is approved and no license agreement is approved, then the conditional use permit is null and void at that point.
Thank you. And then you said that there's no option for renewal.
Correct.
Okay. The phasing discussion in the CEQA addendum, it seems like this lawn area, there otherwise isn't a plan for a use in this 3 parcel area.
That's correct. When we were looking at potential uses, when we first did our initial environmental review for this site, we had the horse stables, we had the children's museum, we had the library, we knew we needed a parking lot down below, but the council had not identified a use for that corner of the property other than just leaving it as green space. They had not identified anything else. So when this idea came forward, before we could consider that and bring it to you, we had to do additional environmental review to evaluate that.
Great. And I do have a question about the CEQA addendum that might just take research while the applicant presents, but it talks about how the 174 trip build out, which is the project as a whole, would qualify for a small project like BMT screening threshold. And does a 222 trip phase 1 also screen out under that threshold?
As I recall, the person that that prepared this report, and maybe Irma has a little better insight into this, did the VMT screening as a part of this. It was because we had it done. Irma, do you recall, did Mr. Poole review the VMT, evaluate this for VMT as well? You're muted.
Yes, he did evaluate it, and I'm trying to look back through my notes about that, but it was his determination that this qualifies as a small project. But I don't have the detailed answer to your question about the 200.
Yeah. The summary and conclusion of the report, the last paragraph indicates that project description, phasing timelines, and uses does not make substantial changes that would require major revisions to the adopted initial study and mitigated negative declaration, as no significant environmental or increase in severity of previously noted effects were identified.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry to spring something very specific on you.
And I do have in my notes that it, and I had actually circled it, and it said that the total trips would still be considered a small project. So, yeah.
Great. With that, I think we're ready to go to the applicant presentation.
Mm-hmm. Would you state your name? State your name for the record. Hello.
Check outside.
Oh, do we have another battery? This one looks like it might not have another battery. It's a 9-volt. There's another one in the box. I think. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully that's not a death.
Hopefully. Which box might be in? Whichever box this is stored in, I don't have it. Okay, no, it's just dead. So I'll tell you what, let me, I can just speak loudly. No, let me have it speak into, you can come and speak from here, I think the best, until we can find another battery. All right. I can look for that. Once you get up here and listen to the applicant, have your best sit next to you then.
Hello. Thank you, Scott, Devin, planning commissioners. Before my opening remarks, I'd like to speak to our supporters here today. We are forever indebted to you. Thank you for showing up, speaking up. Thank you for inconveniencing yourselves and having courage. Means a world to me, Whitney, our educators, Buellton's children, Buellton's parents, Buellton's grandparents, and Buellton writ large. To our detractors who oppose the school, especially a subset who go out of their way to disrupt our Saturday get-togethers, who are posting anti-school flyers around town, who are spreading mis and disinformation about the founders and the school, thank you too. That also takes courage and conviction. We see your passion. We just have one plea. Take us up on the offer to meet you, to give us a chance to allay your concerns. We'll meet whenever and wherever convenient for you. We are good people just trying to do educational philanthropy in your hometown and in our hometown. Today's vote will be historic, one way or the other. A yay vote for this project is a vote for an unprecedented education movement taking root right here in our Buellton. It's a vote for kids of all stripes and homeschoolers. It's a vote for Buellton parents who've longed for a local, walkable, alternative educational offering. It's a vote for parents desperate for additional high school and childcare capacity. It's a vote for hard-working Buellton parents who make sacrifice after sacrifice, putting down while shopping for groceries, working 2 jobs, coming up over time, living tiny, the list goes on and on. Also, they can give their kids a different education. Every kid doesn't flourish in public high schools. In fact, it's not uncommon for multi-child households to be mixed enrollment households. This is a vote for a strategic and generational asset that produces several positive externalities for its host community. It's also a vote for local businesses. It's a vote for the library, which in my opinion is Buellton's crown jewel. It's a vote for city finances, aspirational schools, post-home values. That's a fact. Incoming students and their parents boost local economic activity. And not only paying fair market value rent, with the water, sewer, and power infrastructure upgrades that we're paying for, I will add to $250,000 of site improvement value that accrues to the sole benefit of the city of Buellton when we leave. I still remember to this day, if anyone has questions about our motivations, I was in the city manager's office and I said to him, this is when we were considering a longer term lease. How about city forego rent, which would have been $150,000 over the lease term. And at the end, when we move out, Whitney and I, the project is about $1 million plus of our hard-earned money. Whitney and I will donate that to the school because we know that there's a crisis, a preschool and childcare crisis. That's the kind of people we are. It was turned down, wasn't considered an option. We persisted. We even offered at one point to pay the full value of the 5-year lease at signing. At signing, not out of the waiver of the lease. And that is mutually inclusive of residents' options for permanent use. You can use that while you deliberate, while you reach consensus on permanent use to fund it. That's the type of people we are. They're also extending age, which I'm certain will be used either by the museum or the library when we leave. Today's vote is for an unmatched educational offering right here in Buellton. One that nourishes the heart and hands. One that is 3 things simultaneously: age appropriate, experiential, and academically rigorous. An education that respects the sanctity of childhood. It is a vote for a brighter, better future Buellton. And I can ask someone to pull up the presentation, although we did pass around printouts. So, let me share the screen with that here real quick. Meeting share. And okay, great, thank you. You can go to the next page. Thanks, Scott, for manning this thing. All right, it's going to be a little touchy here. Let's see. Great. So the stars really aligned with us there. These buildings, these classrooms, were chosen chiefly for 2 reasons. They were very mindful of topography. We want to keep this largely unchanged. The single tree was removed. Very minimal grading. And that's largely due to saguaro ethos, which is shared by the relative ethos. Nature, that's right there, should not always have to bend to the aesthetic preferences of humans, especially when they can be fleeting. It's also modular, which allows for a minimally disruptive and very fast move out. Next page, if you don't mind. These, it's fine to call these things yurts colloquially. That's totally fine. I do want to make them modular, which allows for a minimally disruptive and very fast move out. Next page, if you don't mind. These, it's fine to call these things yurts colloquially. That's totally fine. I do want to make them modular, which allows for a minimally disruptive and very fast move out.
That's
Next page, if you don't mind. It's fine to call these things yurts colloquially. That's totally fine. I do want to make them modular, which allows for a minimally disruptive and very fast move out. That's fine. Next page, if you don't mind. It's fine to call these things yurts colloquially. That's totally fine. I do want to measure, which allows for a minimally disruptive and very fast move out. That's fine. Next page, if you don't mind.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. There we go.
Yeah, great. Okay. Thank you. We were hearing your audio. And okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. These are California round terms. Again, it's not semantics. There's some foundational level differences, which you can see on slide 4. They've got the lifespan of stick-built homes, modern construction techniques, high prevalence and ability, so designed and built to code. We made significant upgrades, frankly, because it's deserved. It's fine. We can call them yurts, but I think the technicality might be relevant for planning commission. These are technically California round homes. They're being built in Grass Valley, California. Next slide, if you don't mind, Scott. Now, this was sort of a fun process. Our priority was one and one only, and that was blending with nature. We did the two front runners were tan and terracotta, and I'm glad I pronounced that word terracotta correctly. I just learned how to pronounce that. We originally decided on tan. I thought it was just too reddish. But the goal here again was to blend in with the natural environment. They would have one entrance off the main roads. Parents will not have the option to drop off on main roads. I think it's Meadowview, Valley Day, and Dairyland that sort of converge up there. So one entrance that was deliberate. We want to honor our pledge to the community, to representatives, to staff that they are not on any incremental vehicle traffic as a result of 100 Hills. This is just another ground view. Next slide, Scott. Of the school and from the entrance.
Ready for that one?
Next slide, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, I thought this was important. Hopefully, everyone finds this important. The route to drop off pickup. Those are not doctored images. Those are actual screen grabs from locations on the east and the west. All of your major popular map apps, their routing algorithms are designed for the most efficient route. They will lead down Sycamore. We have staggered drop-offs in the morning, 8:30 to 9, on some other traffic mitigation measure. There's one correction technique that Anna said here. The pickups are also staggered. Keep in mind, we've got half-day and full-day students. So it won't be 3 to 4. It'll be more staggered than that. Next slide, if you don't mind.
Too far. There you
Drop off and pickup, no to Williamson. There's no debate. That's unequivocal. The occupied in school policy. I think Scott mentioned this. Parents would be willing for escalating penalties that are culminate in two things: expulsion and tuition forfeiture if they don't abide by those rules. This is important, I think, to sort of offset the traffic concern. We've adequately addressed that. You know, the only traffic this will create, will produce, is foot traffic from kids, their parents, and their grandparents live in that neighborhood on Meadowview, Valley Day, Dairyland, Sycamore, or nearby. That's the only traffic this will produce. Foot traffic from the neighbors. If you don't mind. This project, it's obviously for a few reasons very important. We use history of this plot, which we considered sacred. We can't think of a better way to pay homage to the Buellton family and the legacy that they left. And this was a great way. The library, like I said earlier on the presentation, it's just a crown jewel. And that was one way to pay homage to that Williamson legacy. We think a school and a library are just a match made in heaven. We've been eager at the community rooms. It's the best library in the valley. Our students become a new source of an ideal visitor. Guys with insatiable appetites for learning, to stay there to do their homework after school, and to check out books on the way out. Libraries, if done right, can be magical places, giving rise to decision makers here and afar. Next slide. 42% of our student body, the applicants are from Buellton. 40% of preschool applicants are from Buellton. 50% of the preschool applicants live in the Riverview Park neighborhood. Scott, do you mind? This is the Buellton Heritage Scholarship. 10 families responded to this availability. Both of them live in Buellton. 3 other families inquired about tuition assistance, and there's one Buellton family funding those. You know, of course, not only do I not think, let me just put it this way, this, in our view, is an exemplary model of a public-private partnership. And with those, I think I'm going to yield my time to Whitney, or do you want to say a few words?
Great. This is working awesome. We want to turn that up.
Can you hear me? Do you want me to talk into this?
Yeah, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hi, commissioners, everyone who's here today. Thank you for being here to support our project. All of you make a big difference being here. I just have a few kind of closing comments to wrap up the technical part of Sandeep's presentation. To the commission, as the applicant, we've prepared a really thoughtful, robust CUP package. I hope that you see that. To the neighbors here, as a potential neighbor, we've listened to your concerns about the parking, the traffic, the architectural compatibility, and wishes for alternate uses on the site. We've held ourselves accountable to the personal opinions that were voiced at the town hall last week. And we asked the Planning Commission to review this project on the basis of its own merits. Please do not view it through the lenses of legacy issues rooted in mistrust from a sliver of residents in the neighborhood. As you can see from the submitted letters, we have 2 preschools who live in the 2 preschool applicants who live in the Riverview Park neighborhood and could look forward to walking to school in the fall. We have hired faculty who also live in the neighborhood. And we have many households with no skin in the game who attended the town hall on the 23rd and walked away supporters when they learned about the school's well thought out plans for traffic and parking. You can see that all in the written letters in your packet. Tonight, I hope that we can all be inspired by what could be for kids in our community and the ripple effect this tiny school could have on the fabric of our culture for generations to come. Kids do not have to grow up for the impact of a positive educational experience to be fully felt. Even now, before the first day of instruction at 100 Hills, we are seeing the visible relief from families who learn that the type of school they only dreamed of may become a reality. This is in a district that currently only offers a single elementary school option. Give these families a choice, and no matter which direction they go in, they will feel better about the town that they live in. If approved, 100 Hills will have the chance to show Buellton what we can grow with the culmination of love for our own children, a selfless drive to bring forward something we so deeply believe in, and a ton of personal sacrifice and the elbow grease that it took to even get this far. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that presentation. I'll turn it back to our commission. Any questions for the applicant? And we'll go in the same order.
Thank you for your comments. If the license is approved, what are the plans for the school after 5 years is up?
As far as our physical location or just big picture?
Both.
Big picture, we plan to expand through 8th grade and run a preschool through 8th grade program, and for the school to go on in perpetuity and be a fixture in the community. As far as the site goes, I think whoever used the word incubator site, that was kind of a good word that I hadn't thought of before. We've been so focused on getting past this step, as you can imagine. It's been a lot of work. And if the licensing agreement is ratified, day one, that's the question that we have to start asking ourselves. So I don't have a clear, definitive answer for you, but I can tell you that we hope to stay in Buellton. There are a ton of factors that are going to play into that, but 5 years is a long time if you actually start at the beginning of that term.
There were about a dozen or so sites that we need to use the microphone.
Just so that people outside can hear you.
Oh, you.
No, go.
We've looked everywhere. I mean, if there's a piece of land that you think might be an idea, someone has called us and brought it to our attention, and we've met every real estate broker in the valley, and we've looked everywhere. This site really, you know, if you look around the valley, you'll see that there's almost every single elementary school is located inside a neighborhood. Those are the public ones. The exception are the private schools. The private schools are, I don't want to say that they're located in harder to reach places, but some of them really are. So it would be a unique feature to have a private school that's so easily accessible by families. That's usually reserved for just the public options. Because of the way that the curriculum and the learning style of a Waldorf school is structured, we focused primarily on agricultural properties and thinking about places where we could have a significant component of outdoor space. Waldorf schools, they don't really think about like indoor outdoor space. They think more about how the two blend together. So that was a really important component of it, just to give you an idea of the types of places that we looked at.
And we'll revisit a subset of those dozen or so sites. Some of them weren't viable candidates at a certain point in time, but could emerge as viable candidates in the future. So we plan on revisiting those candidate sites.
Will you be having any community involvement? Like,
Of course.
okay, I see you have events, like 7 events for the year. Will that involve the greater community or just?
So, yeah. Did you have another part of your question?
No, so
Okay. The events in Waldorf schools are more commonly referred to as festivals, but the whole purpose of them is to open up the campus to the community. And we do have our joint head of school here who's going to speak in the closing remarks too. She has been a part of 3 different Waldorf schools before joining 100 Hills in her 3-decade career in this type of education. And she has some anecdotes to share with you guys about how these schools really integrate themselves. But the bottom line is that there are 1,600-ish Waldorf schools all over the world. And when you talk to the ones that have been around the longest and done the best, they all will tell you about these pivotal moments when they found something that clicked, whatever that tiny little thing was, that really made the school feel accessible to people who aren't enrolled. And that's a common story that you'll hear when these Waldorf schools talk about when they really kind of turned the corner and became integrated in the community. And we've been clearly already thinking about the ways that we're going to do that. So when you look at that list of 7 events, those would be things traditionally, this is not defined in anything yet for 100 Hills if we are approved, but those would be things like May Day festivals and Michaelmas and opportunities for the broader community to engage in like seasonal, deep meaning festivals. It's not yeah. I don't want to get too far into it unless you want me to.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
Okay.
Will there be preference given to Buellton residents, the school? I see scholarships are open to everyone in the valley.
I mean,
No.
I don't think we're legally allowed to do that, to give preferential admission treatment or even review treatment to anyone. But it's something we can talk to somebody about. We didn't come equipped with a lawyer. We don't have a lawyer. But if that's something you want us to get back to you on, we sure can.
Okay, it's a question.
Okay, yeah.
We also see how families in Buellton, they drive all over the valley to access other schools. And people in Buellton are going to join 100 Hills, but it's also going to be part of the broader San Ynez Valley. We're not trying to create a school that's specific to any group of people or where they live.
Then how do you articulate the classroom style? How does it fit within the neighborhood? How can you articulate that to
As far as the construction or the internal?
The architectural design of the...
Well, like Sandeep said, he can maybe speak more to like the stick-built construction, but the way that we chose the colors, the materials, the hardy board, and especially the metal roof, we thought really went with the barn and the way that the library is. I'm sure you guys know that the library was Jeanette's house, and it still really looks like her house. So that was, I guess, sort of the driving force for us, was to make sure when we picked out that roof, we went and we looked at her house and wanted to make sure that that would be compatible. So I'd say that first level for us was having it feel cohesive with the site. And then the second level was making sure that the color palette really fit with the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, if you, this is probably beyond the scope, but if you know, we were thoughtful about that along the entire supply chain. If you look at the landscaping, we try to conform that as much as possible to what the library has there.
Yeah, we're also using a local landscaper who was involved in the Botanic Garden project. So if that gives you an idea that, I mean, all of our consultants and vendors have been local, our draftspeople, they're all, I don't know if I can say that they're all Buellton, but they've all been involved in community projects here.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Commissioner Sergio?
Will you be providing meals for the children?
Yes.
Yeah. Breakfast and lunch?
No, as in a Waldorf school, they typically do what you would think of as like a heavy snack. In my son's preschool class, they would have like rice and beans one day, something like that, around 10 a.m. Most schools do not also provide lunch. So what we're planning to do, actually, Katie Rose is going to be the head of our farm and food program, and she's here if you have specific questions. But we'll have a snack and then a lunch that's prepared as part of the curriculum. So that's a really big part of the day, especially with the younger kids in these schools. They chop the vegetables and they soak the beans, and it's part of the rhythm of the day.
Also, I heard that the community has a problem with preschool Well, for the past 2 years, I've been dropping my grandkids off at the preschool program in Oak Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And there they provide breakfast and lunch.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm sorry, can you be clear about what the problem was that you heard?
How are you recognized by the state of California? The schools here have been twice distinguished schools, which is like the top 10 schools in the state. How do you guys, or how are you recognized by the state of California?
As far as legally, I mean, we're not in operation
No,
yet, so
I'm
we
talking
don't.
about distinguished school awards.
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that those are for public schools, what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, so this won't qualify.
You're not recognized by the state of being exceptional.
Well, we don't have a,
We don't have a school yet that can be assessed for its performance.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to know.
yeah, so I guess maybe this wasn't quite clear, but 100 Hills is not currently in operation. Our first day of classes would be, if approved and then the lease is ratified, it would be this September.
Yeah.
So we're not moving from an existing location.
And I will say the roundhouse or the yurt, I've helped build one for my son. It's been about 15, maybe 20 years. And it's a very good unit. And it's held up as well as any other home in the state.
Yeah.
And we used cedar siding on the outside.
Version here.
There's cedar included in the construction of these as well. And the owner, founder, craftsman in Grass Valley who's building these, he's done units for other schools before. So part of the reason why we chose them is they came ready to go with Title 24 compliance, and they had institutional level knowledge of how to keep everything up to code for classrooms. But it's been, to your point, it's been really interesting to learn about how they're built.
Yeah.
And the metal roof, I don't know about your sons, but the metal roof in particular, they encouraged us to include the metal roof for the longevity of the buildings and also for the architectural appeal. It really makes them look, with the hardy board and the metal roof, it really makes them look like
a greenish tint after all these years. And
yeah, that's cool.
It's attractive.
Yeah.
Very attractive.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Hey, are there any components of the school that would operate during the summer or any summer programs that you're planning to operate?
Not.
We don't have any plans for that.
Okay. Not for the preschool either, or?
I don't know that we can answer that definitively. I mean, I think that that's part of the licensing agreement that we'd have to negotiate. We would love to be able to provide something for kids in the summer, but I can't say that we will have the ability to because that agreement hasn't been determined yet.
Understood. Just a question.
Yeah.
And then are you open to providing some form of bike parking, given that you have a fair amount of students that would be located?
If we're allowed to, we would love to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, that would be up to our landlord.
All right. Okay. So that wraps our questions, and then that'll mark the start of our public comment period. So I just
Thank you.
Thank you. Want to take a quick moment to, do we need a quick pause to get organized, or we?
I think I'm set from the
Okay.
clock. Just want to move. Yeah.
Yeah, does everyone just want to stand up for a second? It's hot in here. Take a pause. Okay, and then we'll get set up with this list.
We're ready to clock.
Just 2-minute
It's just that.
intermission. Call the meeting back to order. We have a lot of public comment coming up. Thank you.
Nice.
All right. I don't get to use that very often. So, we have a lot of comments here. I think we're at about 42 slips, maybe a commenter online. But what we're going to do just to maintain some order and make sure everyone has their voice heard, limit to 2 minutes. The timer will preliminarily go off at 1:45. You've got a couple seconds to wrap it up at that point. Brevity is appreciated, especially if what you plan to say has already been said. You can acknowledge that, but we want to make sure we get to everyone and have, equal time for folks. So with that said, Devin is going to read the speaker into the record. And we'll go from there, and our city manager is keeping time.
And I do apologize if I happen to mispronounce anyone's name. The first speaker will be Regina Mueller.
Regina Mueller.
Possibly Mueller.
Okay, we'll try it.
We'll try again later.
Yeah.
Candace Signa.
It's good. Thank you, guys. I'm going to try to keep it to 2 minutes. Hang on 1 second. Okay. Thank you. I'm Candace.
If all speakers could just talk as close to the microphone as you feel comfortable.
It should be on. Just
You really got to speak in.
yeah, you got to really speak into it.
Okay. I'm going to swallow this.
Yeah.
Is that better? Okay. I'm Candace. I love here. I don't just live here. I'm grateful to be here. I'm going to try to keep it to 2 minutes, and I'm going to address you. Sandeep, you said that every kid doesn't flourish in public high schools, and you're right. My kids exemplify this. They've attended public, private, charter, and hybrid schools. Doesn't mean your school is the answer in this space. You said it's not uncommon for kids to be in multi-enrollment families. Also true. Doesn't mean your school is a good fit for this location. You've said aspirational schools boost home values. I'm not sure what aspirational schools are, but typically I imagine they're accredited. Your school is not. Additionally, sorry, I'm shaky because I don't have enough Dr. Pepper. Additionally, as a 28-year real estate broker, I can tell you what brings value. Permanent value adds, not temporary. Humble, strong representative government that invests in families and listens to them. Prudent financial stewardship, beautiful aesthetics, and safe places to raise families. That doesn't mean your school is a proper fit in this site. We consider this place sacred, you said. You're 100% right. So does everybody in Buellton. The Williamson property is sacrosanct to the people of Buellton. That's why we, the people, pledged our tax dollars to buy it. The city leadership in return pledged back to us, made promises. When we engaged to purchase it, we had lots of conversation about what we wanted in that space. Preschool was never discussed. Every single proposal was community-oriented for use by all of us.
Sorry.
Splash pads, sports courts, wildlife heritage, experiential trails, all of that was discussed. That doesn't mean your school is the right fit. Granting public taxpayer space to a temporary private use, not okay. Classifying concerns expressed as legacy issues by a sliver of residents, when these residents are the taxpayers that funded the purchase of the land you're seeking to lease, also not okay. Finally, the Surplus Land Act is a huge issue, and I know a little something about it. It's vital that we not accept a temporary stopgap here. Instead, direct our energies to a permanent solution.
Thank you, Candace. Appreciate it.
Raquel Giraldes.
Hello, everybody. I came here to the Valley in 2000. I had Antonio, who had been held back a year from San Diego, and the only school, because he was impulsive, but yet he was a genius, scored really high. He needed an attention. So I looked at all the schools, and it was a family, it was the Waldorf school, who was like the perfect place for him. But it was in Santa Barbara. And me as a driver didn't want to go to 154 to take my kid to that school. So I took a lot of attention. So I participated. I was on the board for Family Partnership. I coached at Los Olivos School basketball. I was the coach there. And I had my son at dance school because I was a perfect fit for Dean at that time. We all have different things, but each child has to express their creativity to the highest value, because we otherwise make those children something that we can't fix later. Let's give a child the opportunity to have here a Waldorf school where it is expressively creativity and the kid can foster. I don't want to, now that Whitney was a leader at the 4-H. Antonio was 4 years in the 4-H. He was a leader, and we teach leaders here in that community. So now they come back to say, I want that for my kid. Like Antonio, I want that for my kid because that's what I didn't have. Not that what we had was not bad, it was great. But we can have the opportunity to offer that diverse challenge to each child, because the education that we give to our kids is the most important thing that we can invest. And there's no money, no nothing that can stop us. We can only put our kid where it can grow. So let's make our children grow where they are supposed to. Thank you. Thank you.
Ralph Coombs.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I'm a new resident here, not in Buellton, but in California. But I bring a unique experience. My children went to the Waldorf school from age 2 through high school. So I could talk to the benefit of what I saw from my children, as well as their fellow classmates. It is a unique education that focuses not just on academics, but building the whole person. And when my children went to university, one to University of San Diego, professors approached us to say what spectacular kids we had and how they have a different way of analyzing problems. This is an opportunity for this community to give their children that chance to live that as well. I think it's very important that you consider it. I understand that it's not for everybody, like the real estate agent had said. We get that. And I don't think the founders are saying it's for everybody, but what they're trying to offer you is an opportunity to offer it to children and parents that would like it. And I think you should strongly consider that. Lastly, I will tell you, so we've been in 3 Waldorf schools, one in Orange County, Vancouver, Canada, as well as in Philadelphia, home of Super Bowl champions. And everywhere we went, the schools were part of the community. It was really wonderful. The parents were all invited in, but so were the surrounding people in those communities. It did attract people to come and buy houses by those schools. And I think it will be a real benefit for you to consider. Lastly, I will say, been here for a year, love living here, great place. But the founders, the people that are taking the courage to do this, hats off. Impressed.
Thank you.
Andrew Haas.
I think that's probably Andrew Hicks. That's me. Yeah, I'm a Buellton resident, and I have a 5-year-old kid, and we have ended up taking him down to Santa Barbara, unfortunately, which means 90 minutes driving for me. It means, we have to it affects who can work and when we can work. And we love being up here, but I'm not sure that's a sustainable thing for us. This school is a good fit for our family. I think the 5-year or less, conditional thing seems to make a lot of sense. You get an infrastructure in the area that can be used for something in the future. I'm a big supporter. I've gone to all the events. Our kid has really enjoyed the events that have been held. We appreciate the founders' energy and enthusiasm. I think the philosophy of Waldorf is beneficial to kids and families who are interested in that type of education, which includes us. So I just wanted to voice my support. Thank you.
I appreciate the enthusiasm, but if we could just do like a quick snap, and that would be appreciated. We got a lot of people to get through, and we want to make sure everyone has their time.
Katie Isaacson Hames.
I'm not a very brief person, so I'll do what I can. My name is Katie Isaacson Hames. I live outside of Buellton. My grandmother was the second baby born in Solvang, and she grew up to be the school teacher in the one-room schoolhouse in Solvang. So education has always been really important to my family. And in the 115 years since she was born, this valley has changed, and the landscape is totally different. And when we went to look for early childhood options for our children, our school district didn't offer any preschool options. So we looked all over the valley. We looked in Lompoc. We looked at a lot of different factors, location, hours, philosophy. We needed a school that covered our working hours, and we wanted a secular play-based education. We honed in on a couple, Zaka in particular, but the waiting list, our child aged off of the waiting list. That was 9 years ago, and I still talk to families who encounter this with early childhood programs locally. So we ended up at the Waldorf School of Santa Barbara in Goleta. We work, there's a lot of talk about Waldorf schools being for the elite. We work really hard to send our kids there. And, you know, you can say we made a privileged choice, but we get to choose where we invest our hard-earned money. We don't go on vacations. We don't have fancy cars. We spend a lot of money on gas. What keeps us at the schools that our kids have a screen-free education, which I've looked everywhere. Nowhere else has that. And our kids are thriving. The last thing I'll say is that the Waldorf School of Santa Barbara is a private school. It's a nonprofit. It leases its campus from the Goleta Union School District. So it's another example of a private school using land owned by not the city, but a school district. And so the school district, the public school system benefits from that lease income. So I think that's a really important thing to think about is, sure, maybe the space isn't there for people to enjoy the grass if there's a school there, but how could the city benefit from that income, and how could they put that back into the community? Thank you.
Okay.
Melissa DeSchneider.
Hi, everybody. Very quickly, I just would like to say that I am friends with Sandeep and Whitney. Their family, they're local. They were all involved in 4-H as kids. They're wonderful people. And the last time I saw their little boys, the one comment I had, and I don't see them often. I'm retired and live across town, but their kids meet and greet you, have things to say. They're eager to talk. They're smart, they're intelligent, they're like their parents. I can't say enough about the people that are trying to establish this school. They are good people. They're doing a good thing. How could you go wrong? The money, they're helping the city for the 5 years. I mean, give them a chance. I mean, how bad could it be to let them have an opportunity? They're good people.
Thank you.
Larry Lott.
Larry,
My name is Larry Lair. It was bad handwriting. Amongst other things, I'm the trustee and executor of Jim Buell's estate. And I've known Whitney's family before she was born. So she came to me early in her search for a location to see if we could find a place somewhere on the Buell property. And we tried. I looked into the Waldorf School
first, very impressed. And we looked and we couldn't find anything. I have a passion for education. I've been on the board of trustees at Hancock College for 26 years. So Whitney hit a soft spot for me, on me. And we weren't able to accommodate her. But as this commission knows, Measure C passed, adding 72 acres of the Buell property to the existing 18 acres. It's already in the city limits, which is predominantly the growth area for the future of Buellton. And it's our hope and desire that we can accommodate a larger site and this school as that development matures. So I'm supporting this tonight. I support the school, and I'm anxious to see this as an incubator so what we could end up over on the Buell property. Thank you.
Holly Sierra.
Do you want to also call the second person so they can be ready?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
After Holly Sierra, we'll have Pam Jenko. Nico, sorry.
How could you butcher Nico's name?
Hi there. I'm Holly Sierra. I was the mayor of Buellton when this property was purchased. And I had to do quite a sell job to the community because $2 million was a lot of money for that 21 acres. Since then, I think the price has proven to be it was a pretty good purchase. It's the one I am most proud of as mayor. When we bought it because the lower portion could be rented out, and if the wastewater ever needed to be expanded, we could expand and we wouldn't spend millions of dollars looking for other property. It would be right there. The top property was supposed to be used for the residents of Buellton. And while I am not against this school, I don't think this is the right location for it. This school is private. They're going to open it to the public for their events. That's nice. But this property is supposed to be used by the residents of Buellton, not for a private function. Zaka Preschool, when we were trying to figure out what to do with the top property, they came in, they asked about renting the Williamson house, which is now the library. And the neighborhood came out full force. No, we don't want fencing around the house. We don't want it's supposed to look like a park. So we put the library in instead, which again was something that I was very pro. I just think the school is probably very welcome in the valley, very needed in the valley, but this is the wrong place for it. Thank you very much.
After Pam Nico, my apologies, we'll have Kelly Herrick.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you for letting us all come here and speak to you all. My name is Pam Nico. I've raised 6 kids in this valley. I've been a resident for 45 years. I am, like Candace, been in many different school systems with the children, both private and public. By the way, I don't know if most of you know how schools can grow, because this was the first Buellton school, this building that you're in right now. So schools grow and the need for schools grow. I have driven a lot of miles with my children to get them across the valley into Santa Maria and different private schools that I can go to. I've also been at Hanada. We are so blessed to have Oak Valley School and the potential of having an alternate for our children here so that we don't have to put our kids all in one place. Now, Scott probably raised some of these questions because I have a very big concern. I run the San Ynez Valley Community Outreach, and we deal with food insecurities, Meals on Wheels, and kind of helping the community at need. What we know is that in the last few months, we are opening 3 new kind of lower income and housing developments here in Buellton. We're kind of getting a little inundated, and we're having meetings about what that looks like for us and what that looks like for the city.
And I did a little bit of research because I was very worried about the Surplus Land Act. And so what I found on their site is it said that the Surplus Land Act excess site programs both aim to make public lands available for affordable housing development. However, key differences between the two: surplus land aims to make locally owned public land that is no longer needed for government purposes available for building affordable homes. The excess site program aims to identify, prioritize excess state-owned property and cities for aggressively pursuing sustainable, innovative, cost-effective housing project that is going to bring a lot more traffic into this neighborhood, and it's going to have a lot more impact on our city and our city resources. So, thank you, Pam. Bring to school.
After Kelly Herrick, we will have Elaine Alvarado.
I wasn't planning to speak. I did submit a letter that was in your packet. I am a parent in Buellton. I have a daughter at Zacca Preschool, and I run a local Facebook page for families in the Valley. We have a crisis with our school choice here in Buellton. For us to have one standalone preschool that is full every year, this next incoming year, they're actually not taking any new students because all of our families have siblings that are going to be taking up those spaces. So like some of the parents that have spoken that are driving down to Santa Barbara or Goleta every day, I don't think that's a sustainable thing for our community. I completely understand not wanting to add a school on that site, but most of the neighbors that I've spoken to, their issues include traffic and parking. In my letter, I would like to see some more negotiation with the neighbors and potentially add speed bumps on Sycamore Drive. If there is going to be an influx of cars going down into that parking lot, it would be a nice, compromise for maybe the founders of the school to essentially pay for speed mitigation on that road, since there will be more use. That's pretty much all I want to say, but we really need more options here in Buellton for schools. Thank you.
After Elaine Alvarado, we will have Morgan Stevenson.
Thank you. You can hear me okay. Hello, my name is Elaine Alvarado. I'm here to speak against the proposal for the Williamson property, both as a resident and as a school board member. Firstly, we were one of the original owners at Meadow Ridge. We bought our home in 1997. We moved here specifically to live in a small town environment, to raise our son and enjoy our future years. Meadow Ridge has met our expectations and beyond. The decision to move the library to this property, even knowing that it could create some traffic and other issues, I did welcome the opportunity to be a part of the neighborhood. It provides additional activities and play areas for our neighbors and their children. To see that in place is amazing. So in all, the impact has been minimal. However, traffic is an issue, even though the Google Maps designate the traffic to go down Sycamore, does not. It goes down Valley Dairy. I see it every day. I live on the corner of Valley Dairy and Farmland. Lots of traffic. And so it has increased immensely. Appreciate the signage also, by the way. So I appreciate that. And one more point of talking about the property itself, and it is almost like a park. So perhaps down the road, we can consider that to designate it as a park or an additional part of Riverview Park. I'm also concerned that you and city leaders did not make it more known that this property would be subject to further development. In fact, City Council member John Sanchez shared with our neighbors that nothing further would be developed. Even if this is not granted, I understand through Mayor Silva that the state could still require additional rural housing, as you've indicated, up to 40 units. I'll kind of conclude real quickly. So I just wanted to point that out. I am an advocate of education, both private and public. I'm a retired school administrator. My son attended private school, but this does not represent our neighborhood. This does not represent what we want in our neighborhood. I advocate for this school. As Holly mentioned, this is not the place for it. We have an outstanding program at our school district. We have a community connection with Buellton, not just our students and our staff, but the community. And we're taking that away from our community by taking away from the families. So bottom line is, please do not have any more development or further development or any other interest come into this property. Keep the library as it is, maintain the ambience and the small town environment, leave the property as is. Thank you.
After Morgan Stevenson, we will have Leanne Blackburn.
My name is Morgan Stevenson, and I echo all of the comments that the prior supporters have mentioned. I was born and raised in Buellton, and after spending time away for college and to begin my career, I returned home in 2021. Throughout my time here, I've had the opportunity to support education in the San Ynez Valley in various capacities. I've served as student assistant at Los Olivos Elementary and Solvang Elementary. For the past 2 years, I've contributed to the elective program at the Christian Academy. My husband and I are expecting our first child at the end of this year, and I'm especially grateful to see a new educational option emerging in Buellton and our community. I'm particularly inspired by the core values of the Waldorf education, which emphasize creativity, curiosity, and nurturing the whole child. I fully support the vision and mission of 100 Hill Schools, and I believe it will be a meaningful addition to the educational landscape of our valley. Thank you.
After Leanne Rathburn, we will have Briar
Rathbun. Leanne Rathbun.
Rathbun, my apologies.
I've been a resident on Meadowview Drive
for a decade now. I'm doors away from this daily drop-off pickup route and was not notified about this proposal. I happened to learn about it after the June 23rd meeting. This resolution we're discussing, this area on Dairyland, is a very privileged sort of issue. And with that, I ask that the Planning Commission help us preserve it in the slice of heaven neighborhood I'm so privileged to live in. In general, I am opposed to turning the area into a commercial space or a school, and I would hope that the permitted conditional use school permit is more for things like having an in-home daycare rather than such a drastic school project that overhauls an entire public space. I'm not opposed to another school in Buellton. Sounds like it's much needed. I'm opposed to closing off the Little Williamson Park to the general public. Mr. Wolf, you can consider designating this perhaps as Williamson Park. It's already developed as a park. What the applicants consider as a match made in heaven next to the library, much of the neighborhood considers a lightning shoved down our throats, a land grab and resources grab, turning the public library to an extension of the school for their repeated, consistent private use. I'm in opposition to this particular resolution, and even more so in opposition to allowing the applicants of this resolution to have this school here, because these applicants registered with the California Department of Education at Dairyland address as of May 15 as an existing school. By the way, it's divided to grade 8, which is different than what's in the resolution. So that and some other creative licenses they've taken, and also some comments about somebody else's concerns about online about inaccuracies and blatant lies. She was trying to be a supporter of this project to an opponent, and it leads me to worry that the school might find ways to support rules and regulations. Just on that basis, I ask you deny this proposal and perhaps notify the education department of the school's current status.
After Briar Base, we'll have Amy Small.
Hi, my name's Briar Bates. I just wanted to, oh, sorry.
Right into that.
Oh, put it, yeah, angle it up a little bit, right at your, there you go. Thanks, sorry, not good at this. Hi, my name's Briar Bates. I just wanted to talk about the traffic concern because I live at Farmland and Sycamore. So traffic would be coming right at our house, and I have a 7-year-old. I've seen an increase in traffic already lately, and the school would be impacting the traffic. And I just wanted to I just wanted to, I apologize. Just wanted to say that I am against the increase in traffic that would affect my daughter. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Ara, and I've been seeing the traffic from here a lot, and my mom and I play frisbee, and the cars have been going everywhere, like when we play frisbee. So I'm really concerned about the school because sometimes actually we have friends come over, and they might like problems coming over here. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
After Amy Small, we will have Brooke Lawler.
Hello, hi, my name's Amy Small. I'm also an educator. I've been in international education, multilingual education, post-secondary education for 35 years. I'm a proud mama of 2 girls, and we all love our kids. We all love our grandkids. We're all proud of them. This is a very family-friendly neighborhood, and we love its serenity. I'm going to build on the traffic comment, but also the lack of notification. We are people who live very close to this affected area, and yet really nobody knew about the May 23rd meeting. I found out by a random, dog walker who told me about it. My notice was postmarked 2 days before the meeting. Therefore, I could not even open it in my mail. So the lack of transparency is concerning. Okay, building on the question about the non-impact from the school at an environmental basis. I don't understand, because if maybe I'm wrong, because I've never done any of this, but the Santa Ynez Valley Children's Museum is not yet fully operational, right? They're going to invite children's groups and different school groups, and everyone's going to use it, but it's not yet really working. So therefore, of course, total addition. And so I don't really understand how we can say that it is not an environmental impact, a noise impact, and also this biased view that I keep hearing that Sycamore is the road. Well, people live in Sycamore. Sycamore's part of our neighborhood. In fact, if we have just as many rights, those who live on or near Sycamore, as someone who lives closer to the school or farther away from the school. So I have many concerns. Also, Sandeep said a beautiful thing, which is the sanctity of childhood. And, the childhood begins with the family unit. The family unit lives in their home. This is why we protect our homes. We love our homes, and we try to be good neighbors. And I am not against the Waldorf method. I think it's wonderful. I'm not against any school, public or private. It's just not the right place for it. And I thank you.
Thank you.
After Brooke Lawler, we will have Will Hames.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brooke Lawler. I am a mother of 4. I brought my son here. I left the other 3 home. He wanted to learn a little bit of local government. This is what a living education looks like. Waldorf is all about that. So he's learning a lot. I'm an owner of an outdoor enrichment program, and we operate classes here in the Santa Ynez Valley. And I will tell you, it is a gem of a neighborhood where you guys live. Everybody from Santa Ynez, Buellton, Lompoc, it's like the place we gravitate towards is the botanical gardens, the Riverview Park, and the library. We're already there. And Whitney has welcomed us, the Santa Ynez Valley homeschoolers. She says, you are welcome on our campus. We will be doing programs with them. We will be at those festivals. And public schools do not do that for us. So huge proponent of this school and of alternative education opportunities. Why a Waldorf school? When I think of a Waldorf or Steiner-inspired education, I think of one word: peaceful. I had the privilege of participating in a Waldorf program with my son. He learned to knit. He learned to do math through hands-on experiences. But most importantly, he learned reverence, respect, and kindness. It reflects values that we are losing today. These are old school values. Waldorf education emphasizes respect, responsibility, hands-on learning, real human connection, not screen time, test prep, grades. It's about developing thoughtful people, capable young people who can fix things, grow things, and relate to others with kindness. In many ways, it's a return to what used to be. This school is not bringing in something radical, but preserving the best of what education used to be and what this next generation desperately needs. One final note, my former Waldorf teacher was, her uncle was a surgeon. He said in the next 20 years, we will have terrible surgeons. Why? Because they're all on their phones, they're all on screens, and they're not using fine motor skills. Waldorf teaches hands-on knitting, crocheting, sewing. Save the surgeons.
After Bill Hames, there's someone only put down Mark. You're next, Mark.
Hi, my name is Will Hames, and I came today to support the Waldorf school, the 100 Hills school. I was a student that had a hard time sitting still in class, much like the young man that was playing with a car over here. The Waldorf education that I found out by sending my children through Waldorf, and they're still currently at the Santa Barbara Waldorf School right now, has basically opened my eyes to how good the children can turn out when you give them the skills and the confidence to be able to thrive. And basically the legacy that anybody can leave isn't necessarily what they have done, but also it can be the people that they've raised. And that's the path that I want to say that we're headed down with our children at this point right now. If you meet my son and daughter, they'll look you in the eye, they'll shake your hand, they'll have a conversation with you, they'll interact, and they have skills like the woman right before me was talking about. They're building swords, they have woodworking, they have knitting, they are they're pushed to not figure out what's cool. They actually will interact with each other and talk about things that they think are cool, but also still be able to appreciate what somebody else thinks is cool, even if they don't like that. And I learned that recently on a trip with my daughter's class to the Sequoias, when there were 4 different girls in the car with me. They each had their own idea of what they thought was cool. Kind of digress a little bit on this one. I just want to say that Larry Lair came up here and confirmed what has been said at the community meetings, that they have explored so many options for this campus. Seems to me that they have ended and have worked well with the city council and the city of Buellton in order to find this place, and they are investing their hard-earned money into something that can be very advantageous for the city. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Mark Derrick. I'm a resident in the proposed neighborhood, and I've heard a lot about the school and the owners. Everybody, they all seem like really nice people, and the school sounds like it's a wonderful thing. However, my concern isn't with them and what they're going to provide in terms of a great school. However, it's the concern of the impact on the neighborhood. It's the traffic I'm concerned about. And I live on Meadowview Drive, so I do use Sycamore, and I am concerned about an increase in traffic down the street. And so where does it stop? We open this up for that and then allow more people in. It's I don't think it's a good fit personally. I live there, so I'm affected by it. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Next is Katrin McKiernan, and after that we will have Al Gately.
Hi, Katrine McKiernan. I want to briefly underscore the comments about the crisis in early childhood education here in Buellton. We moved here because we wanted our forever home. Very excited to live in this community, and we couldn't get into any preschools. So we started driving 90 minutes round trip each day. That's not sustainable, and it's very expensive. We are seriously considering selling our home in Buellton and leaving because of the lack. And we think the Planning Commission can really help here address this issue. And we don't think we're the only ones. I know of 4 other families who are doing the same thing, who are driving to Santa Barbara. And I just wanted to echo the comments of others. So I very much support the school. Thanks.
Thank you.
After Al Gately, we will have Susan.
Hi. Can anyone hear me?
Okay, good. I want to pay close to that. I want people to hear. My name's Al Gately. I lived in the Valley for over 45 years and 10 years in San Ynez and 10 years or 11 years in Solvang. And then we moved to Buellton. And I think of those three, Buellton is by far my favorite because the people here are wonderful. Everything's wonderful in Buellton. And this whole thing is not about the school. The school's a wonderful school. You know, and you guys up there, you're going to vote on something that's really important to our future here in this. And I live in this little community here. So I'm very concerned about that. School's wonderful. It's just not the right place for the school. And there was a lot of talk about, the traffic and the traffic's going to come down and through here, and that's going to happen. They're not going to all take people down below and drop them off there. That's just not going to happen. They're going to go through and they're going to go out. And that's a bad thing to this neighborhood. They talk about the lease, it's a 5-year lease. I wonder what the possibility is of extending that lease for 10 years, 15, 20, I don't know, whatever. But that's not how leases usually go. So I would love to see the school be here. I really would. Think of the teachers and the curriculum, the way they do it is really good. It's just not the right place. So I would really encourage, and also I want to address this Surplus Lands Act. I mean, I think it's kind of ludicrous to think that they were going to come in and build, some housing there in that little tiny place. That's ludicrous. That's not going to happen. So I think there's a much better use for that. A museum, a children's museum, all of that kind of stuff can be built there. And I just think that we really need to have you guys consider the impact on the community, the people that live here. And so I would encourage you to pursue, you had some, where was he? Viable alternatives they mentioned. They considered some viable alternatives, but rejected them. I don't know why. But I thought they should go back and reconsider those viable alternatives and change the plans. And I hope you guys are instrumental in helping that happen. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next we'll have Susan on Valley Dairy Road.
I believe in viable alternatives too. There must be 100 other things that we could put in that spot. I mean, we could put a school with hundreds of people in it. I believe in education. I went to a lot of private schools. It was very fun, very good, but we don't need that school here now. It's upsetting to the neighborhood. I live so close, and the peace and beauty that we get out of that one little piece of earth is so much more valuable. Children's education can happen, and I know that's important, but also for the rest of us who care about beauty and peace and a little bit of space in this land, I think that we should be represented. And I never knew this was coming. I never heard it coming. And I don't feel like as citizens, we've been respected. Thank you.
Next we'll have Katie Haig, Valley Dairy, and then Katie Fleckenstein.
Hi, my name's Katie Hawk. That's okay. It happens a lot. I'm here tonight not as a planner, a legal expert, but as a neighbor, someone who chose to live in a quiet residential area because it felt like a place where families, my family, could thrive, where my kids could ride bikes safely, and where neighbors actually know each other. This proposal to place a private Waldorf-inspired school in the middle of the neighborhood threatens to change all of that. We're not against education, but this isn't just about a school. It's about a kind of neighborhood we want to live in. A private school will bring traffic, noise, daily disruption to a place that wasn't designed to carry that weight. Our streets aren't built for hundreds of cars twice a day. Our families didn't move here expecting large events, festivals, or amplified sound during school hours just a few feet from our homes. I live 2 houses away from this location. But it goes deeper than that. This school won't be open to everyone. It's private, selective, and expensive. And that means most of the people who will use it don't live in our neighborhood. And many of us can't send our kids there even if we wanted to. We're being asked to give up the peace and can't even access. We're not saying no to education. We're saying yes to community, to neighborhoods that are livable, walkable, safe, and peaceful. Please listen to the voices of the people who will live with this decision every single day, not just those who want to build something. we, the neighbors, respectfully ask you to say no to this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Katie Fleckenstein, we will have Georgina Mission Drive. I apologize.
Okay, like Candace, my blood sugar is low. I'm Katie. I live on Valley Dairy. I'm going to talk fast, so pay attention. I am not a legacy resident. I am from DC. I love cities, and I moved here open to growth and responsible change. And I do not support our public land supporting private ventures that serve a very small number of residents. Today's decision is not about whether or not the school is amazing and needed in Buellton. It is. It is. We support it. It's about whether or not this property is the spot for it, and I'm here to say it is not. Please do not approve this project merely from fear of the work that would be required for the city to take charge of this land or fear of developers. Please take time to learn about the exemptions to the Surplus Act. And please learn it yourself too. Don't just rely on word of mouth about this. We are a community that will come together when needed and are here to support you the same way you support us. I am proud of our community for showing up. Unfortunately, a lot of parents like myself who live in Buellton couldn't make it tonight. They found out too late or they're home with their kids. We are counting on you to make sure that our residents are prioritized with extra attention towards what project will serve the most residents of Buellton. Please do not get confused about whether or not we need the school in Buellton. We really do. That's not the decision here. The decision is, do we want it on this property? I want to reinforce the fact that as a resident on Valley Dairy, traffic has increased and more people take Valley Dairy than Sycamore, even if Google is telling them to take Sycamore. It's the first left if you're coming in from out of town. I know this. You can't tell me otherwise. I see this every day. Thank you for your time and please be considerate today.
Thank you.
Georgina?
Okay.
If we could move on to Chris Clark and after Diana Paul.
Good evening. I'm Chris Clark. I live on in that neighborhood, and I'm someone who pays attention to details. And I wanted to bring to the attention of everyone here some details that have been troubling me. I noted that on the site plan for the proposed school, they show 8 trees within the fenced area to be developed. On the way over here, walked over there are 15 trees in that area, not 8. The proposed plan only indicated that there would be snack provided at the school, not lunch, but that was included in the presentation tonight. At the open house, it was explicitly stated that they would not use the library, and that was a large part of the presentation tonight. At the town hall, it was also told that improvements made would not be allowed to remain after the lease term due to prevailing wage laws. The main thing that concerns me and my family in that location is the loss of open space. Having this area be developed could potentially change it in perpetuity, the nature of it. Open space is increasingly vanishing in our community, and I would encourage everyone to take every opportunity to preserve it whenever possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could have Diana Paul followed by Francesca Escobar.
Hi, I've been in this community for 25 years. My kids, I live right by Honda. So transparency is pretty nil here because this property affects the community and not just the neighborhood. It's an open space. We need the open space. I walk my dog over there every day, and the traffic has increased greatly. No one's going to use those specified streets as designated. They're going to all take shortcuts. I know this because I ride my bike out towards family school. And if that mom is late, carpooling 3 kids on the phone, she isn't going to do what she's supposed to do. And it's dangerous. So this is not okay. The school, it sounds interesting and good and an option, but it's not necessarily the best fit for this community in that location. If there's an issue with the schools, maybe someone needs to go to school board meetings and talk about a collaboration and offer some other options and update what we do. Our schools used to be distinguished schools. You need to be involved in the schools. If you want to bring change, be part of the change. Don't move here and change our community to fit your needs without taking into any consideration the rest of the residents that live here. My kids are grown, they're going to have kids, but this is not an appropriate use of that property. That is a park space. That's what we were told. We were going to have the open space. Thank you.
If we could have Francisca Escobar followed by Richard Winter.
Thank you all here too. My daughter is a product of a private school. She went to Montessori school for our elementary school and then the private school in public school in Haneda and San Ynez High. I am a local resident of almost 30 years, original owner, like somebody said. We're the second street that was built in the Meadow Ridge on Valley Dairy Road. So I live on Valley Dairy Road. I still live there. I took my daughter to Goleta every single day and her elementary to have a Montessori experience. So I understand that. And I appreciate a new private school coming in as an option, but just not down our street. We were the second street built. So we lived through the development of the rest of the Meadow Ridge. We lived through the development of the park. We lived through the development of the changing of the library. We lived through the development of all the festivals and activities that happen in the park on an annual basis. So that is a concern of mine, is that we will continually be asked to give up our peace of mind and our peaceful neighborhood for the accommodation. And having 50 students, I don't think is going to be a magic solution for a lot of our problems with our educational system, especially in the preschool area. I just think that that property was meant to be for the majority of our Buellton residents, and I hope that it continues to be that. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could please have Richard Winter followed by Steve Mather.
Thank you for taking my comments and questions. My name is Richard Weiner. I've lived in the Meadowview community in that neighborhood for 24 years. I've raised 3 boys through the public school system. They're young men now, and they're doing very well. All of them are in college. Where I live is right on the corner of Sycamore and Dairy Way. And I can tell you that traffic is astounding. It's bad enough now, and you know, I can sympathize to all the young parents here, because it was very difficult for us to find daycare and preschool for all 3 of our boys. So I do understand. And I went to a Waldorf type school, grades 1 through 3 in the Northeast, and it was great. And I don't think anyone here disputes the value of education or having options, especially here in the Valley. But it's my opinion, and I think I'm speaking for a lot of people in this audience. What we have concerns with is the location and the use of public land for a private school that benefits the few and not the people who live in that neighborhood. And that school was never mentioned in the development plan when the city purchased the Williamson Ranch. It was not. And in addition to that, you know, some of the mitigations that were discussed here, putting speed bumps on Sycamore, I mean, come on. I mean, that's not going to work. And my son, when he was 9 years old, was almost hit by a car right on Sycamore. And traffic is much worse at this point. One more thing I have a concern with is the developmental plan. General conditions, line item 40, release of bonds. What does that mean in relation to developing this school? Does that mean that you're going to use taxpayer money to
Thank you.
to build this school if you run out of funds? I would like to know, and I think the rest of us would too. Thank you very much, and I urge you to take into consideration everyone's needs and opinions. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could please have Steve Mather, followed by Lorraine Kennedy.
I'll do that after the public comments are complete.
Do we have Steve Mather? Steve Mather. Okay.
There are a handful of chairs too that have opened up if anyone needs to make their way inside.
If anyone would like to come in, we have some chairs available.
Perhaps.
Steve Mather. Nope. Okay, let's move on to the.
If we could move on to Lorraine Kennedy, please. And then Patty Hamill.
Lorraine Kennedy. Okay.
Let's go to Patty.
Move on to Patty. Patty Hamill. There she goes.
Good evening, Chair Reese and Commissioners. I'm Patty Hamill. I'm a 21-year-plus resident of Buellton. I have three major concerns about this project. First of all is the use. I believe the public property should be for the public benefit, not for the benefit of a private school. Private school is not in the best interest of the immediate neighborhood. Staff report suggests that many children from Meadow Ridge will attend this school, and I've heard from some of the residents that they will not be attending this school. Students will be coming in from Solvang, San Ynez, and Los Olivos, adding to my third concern. Second concern, aesthetics and open space. Yurts are not pretty or California round homes. They're temporary structures. They will block the open space. They will block the view of the river view, the park, the mountains from the neighbors. Staff report says that the aesthetics comply with the zoning. It's still not aesthetically pleasing. The fence does not comply with the open space elements. Also, fences will not reduce noise for neighbors. It's an open fence. It's a 5-foot tall fence versus 16-foot yurts. The entire project takes the pretty green open space out of the equation. Practicality. I don't think the yurts will be nice in the winter, rain, or any time in the Buellton wind. If you spend any time in Buellton, it is windy all the time. Also, the decomposed granite pathways will be a mess in the rain. Third and most important is traffic and site access. The project causes great concern for Sycamore and 246. I'm in the 500 block of Sycamore Drive. Here's my example. On my block, there are 10 houses. There's a car that leaves every house every morning, at least one car between 7 and 9 a.m. There's a huge concern for Sycamore and 246. For years, City of Buellton residents have wanted a stoplight. Caltrans will not approve it or allow it. This project is just waiting for more accidents on Sycamore and 246. Also, the staggering drops does not mean anything. Spend a little time at the Oak Valley. They stagger from 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, and it's a steady stream of traffic from 1:30 to 3:45. In summary, I'm not against schools or school children. I'm against the conditional use permit at this site. I strongly urge you to deny this application. Thank you.
If we could please have Lydia Jacobson, followed by Kurt Halverson.
Okay.
Lydia had to leave. Okay.
Kurt Halverson, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kurt Halverson. I'd like to thank you all for the comments. I feel like I've learned a lot in the last 2 hours, so just thank you to everyone involved. I'd like to make a brief comment in support of the school. I'll echo what some others have said. In terms of personal experience, we had a daughter before we moved to Buellton that was really benefited by attending the Waldorf school, and I've been really grateful for that. So on a personal level, I can say that it benefited our family. I would also say that school options in Buellton as a parent of young children has also been a challenge that we have been navigating. There are any number of good and legitimate uses for this land, so I wouldn't say that this is the only way to use it, but I think having more early childhood options is one of the best ways we could use this land. I've heard a lot of great oppositions to this project, and you can't really address all of those in 2 minutes. I think there are a lot of legitimate concerns. But what I would also say is that if we always say no to projects like this, the parents who are looking for more schooling options will end up with nothing, and that would be my concern. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
If we could please have Len Fleckenstein followed by Larry Bishop.
I didn't see Len.
Larry, you didn't give me any warning. Sorry. Yes, I'm a city resident, and when the city purchased the Williamson property, residents were told the land would be used for public purposes. And that's what the city has been planning to do. So let's stick with Plan A. Let's develop detailed plans to use the property for a public purpose, not modify the already approved plans and schedules to accommodate and subsidize an exclusive private use. The second reason to reject the project is because it doesn't provide direct benefits to a large number of city residents, nor to a broad range of city residents. At best, the project would serve very few city residents, a few city kids at most. Any private school should be built on private land, not public land, not this property. I follow city issues very closely, as quite a few people in this room know. But this project caught me completely by surprise just 2 weeks ago. Considering that this project pertains to public land, I was shocked at the extent of city staff's collaboration with the project applicants with little or no citizen input. That's outrageous. If you don't reject this proposal tonight, you should defer a decision and engage Buellton residents in considerable further discussion. We heard Erna Tucker and Scott Wolf say there would be a 5-year limit on any license agreement. I do want to point out that the staff report doesn't really say that. It says, quote, the length of approval is ultimately determined by any future license agreement that may be approved by the city, end quote. That's really vague. The staff report also presents some rather contorted logic to conclude the project is consistent with other plans and schedules. I completely disagree. It's not consistent with current zoning. It's not consistent with already approved projects and schedules for the Williamson property, and it's not consistent with the general plan. We heard Sandeep talk about educational philanthropy. There's so much educational philanthropy that could be done for current students at Buellton Union schools. That's what we need, not this school on that property. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could please have Larry Bishop followed by Terry Binkovitz. Larry Bishop.
I'm sorry.
Oh, just want to get ready to.
Is our second speaker here?
Is Terry Binkovitz here?
Yes. Hi, my name is Dr. Terry Binkovitz, and I've been a part of the Waldorf movement for over 20 years. I established the Waldorf School in Santa Monica and Pacific Palisades. Unfortunately, that was burned in the fire. Both of those schools are in residential areas. I understand concern about traffic and I understand land use, but I'd like to offer a different perspective. Also, I want to include, I live here now. A different perspective. My family made financial choices and sacrifices to be able to go to a Waldorf school because we needed those values that Waldorf school offered, the simplicity that Waldorf school offers, the reverence for nature that Waldorf school offers, and raising emotionally grounded children. These schools are intentionally small and quiet and in our harmony with the land. The yurts or roundhouses, they're not permanent structures. They're temporary, they're natural, and they're low impact. Waldorf schools don't just educate children, they also educate parents. They serve communities. Families often are deeply engaged in volunteering, supporting local business, and giving back. This isn't about taking land away from the community. It's about planting something beautiful and inclusive for the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, those are all the speaker slips minus the people who didn't show.
Is Larry still out there by chance? No?
Larry Bishop?
Okay.
I just received a slip from Farley Newman.
Okay. Does that bell mean I'm done or does that mean
15 seconds?
Okay, I was going to say a couple quick things. I mean, it sounds like a great school, but I would encourage everybody to find a different place for it because aesthetically, it just kind of ruins that area. That's why I think of it. Also, if we're concerned about the property being taken over for housing by the state, we'd be better off to put a parking lot with a bunch of shrubs around it than to build 30 units, which is going to be, or however many, which is going to be a traffic nightmare. Also, the parking lot at the bottom, I haven't really looked into that much. I don't know if they're making that out of asphalt or whether they're going to put pavers down so it can absorb the rainwater. I think that would be something to look at if nobody has. And also how the street comes down into the park and it goes left and it goes along that whole bike area. I don't know if it might be better just to go straight through to the parking lot, and maybe that's in the plans. I don't know. Also, we might want to meet in a bigger hall next time. That way everybody can come inside. And I don't know if this does pass in this area for the school, if there might need to be another flashing crosswalk light put in for Valley Dairy, but just like with Sycamore, because there's going to be a lot more kids crossing there. And I think that's it. Just some quick notes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. A, for sticking around, and B, for, participating in our public process. We appreciate it. We now have we have an opportunity for closing comments by staff and or the applicant to address anything that came up that needs addressing.
Is it appropriate for me to address a few comments specifically?
Sure. And yeah,
very briefly.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's working.
Want me to readdress?
Yeah, sure. As far as private use on public land, I think on a very basic level, this is a nonprofit that's going to be paying cash rent to the city, which is a component of that. The question about the bond, I'm not familiar. Whoever asked that, was that?
I did.
Richard.
Okay, that specific item, you'd have to get Scott or their counsel to look into for you. But there was something there was a component to that statement that you made. Maybe you could repeat it, that I know is absolutely not true, and I'd just like to provide you with that clarification. I think you said the city subsidizing the project. Our only financial arrangement with the city, if approved, and if our licensing agreement is also approved, will be that of a cash paying tenant. That's just the entirety of it.
I think we just all need clarification on it. It's under the general conditions in that development.
I'll give
So
clarification.
Scott can get that for you because that is really important. But I just want to let you know that, as not a lawyer, that's the clarification. There's no additional financial agreement, financial backstop, or subsidy that's coming from the city. And the cash rent that we're paying, that lease, when negotiated by the city council, Scott, you can correct me if I speak too casually with my non-legal language, that is not really a negotiation. The city's general counsel says this is what fair market rent is. I'm not sure the intricacies of their process in determining that, but here's a lease. If you want to sign this, this is what the city thinks it's worth, and I'm sure that you can get all the detail that you need on how they determine that amount.
And why does it say prior to release of any bonds, the applicant shall furnish?
I'll address that in just a moment, but I'll address the bond issue.
Yeah, and I think if we just focus on it, just to kind of bullet points, if you want to bring up any closing points, and then we'll go to. I just thought that the financial agreement deserved to have some clarification if you wanted that. So for our closing remarks, we do have our joint head of school here, and her comments are also really going to speak to the concept of public land for private use. Private use doesn't mean public gain. Private use can also produce public gain. And I think that in her brief comments, she's going to really be able to give you an idea of how schools can contribute to the public gain and are worthwhile tenants as cash paying tenants on public space. So Chinyelu.
Thank you, Whitney.
Kind of old school here. I've got my paper. So my name is Chinyelu Kuntz, and my husband spoke earlier. He's back there. We're relatively new to this area, and we moved here about a year ago. And I've been involved with Waldorf education for over 32 years, and still counting. First as a parent, then as a Waldorf trained teacher and a mentor, and now as an educator, kind of all rolled up. So I connected with Whitney about 3 years ago through my online work. I was in classroom teaching, first at the Orange County Waldorf School, and then at the Vancouver Waldorf School in Canada, and then at the Kimberton Waldorf School, which is the second oldest Waldorf school in North America in Pennsylvania. And we connected talking about children, and then that moved on to Whitney speaking with me one day and saying, I really want to start a Waldorf school out here. We really need a Waldorf school. So we talked about that. Fast forward to April of 2024. I came out and did a full one-day retreat. We talked about the number of 25 parents attending, and that grew very quickly to 74 parents who attended. My two children and my son's fiance, they prepared all the food, snacks, and lunch. It was quite incredible. But what was even more incredible was the interest that we saw in parents for a Waldorf school here in this area. Some parents wanting it to start right away. But Whitney and Cindy were very thoughtful in giving time, thinking that, it would take time to find a site, but probably not to this degree of length of time that it has taken. I honor their work. I honor what they are doing so greatly. It is not easy to start a school. It is not easy to start a Waldorf school, even more so, because you need Waldorf trained teachers. You need teachers who understand the thought philosophy, the pedagogy. And it's because it's so specific, because of what the intention of this education is to bring to the children. And in terms of the schools, all three schools that we have been a part of when our children were going from age 2 through high school, as my husband mentioned, they were all different communities. One thing I want to say, as I've been listening to everybody, and I really just kind of taking in what everyone is saying, even those that are opposing the school, is that change is hard. Change is hard. I've seen this happen at each of the 3 schools that we were at, whether it's within the neighborhoods or whether within the school itself. Even at the Orange County Waldorf School, when we started, they were at one site 7 years and then less than 7 years, and then had to move to a new site in Costa Mesa. Such an uproar, but the school was doing their very best to find a location that they could eventually come to own. All the schools that we've been at have been in temporary, except for Kimberton, I should say. That was a huge donation of 400 and some acres by a family, but so many other schools I know of, like they are like in incubating spots, and then they moved with the goal, hopefully, of owning their own site. So one of the things that I also wanted to talk about is that Waldorf schools really see themselves as wanting to be part of the community, to hear the community, to work with the community, and not to be in a contentious sort of relationship with the community. And so just hearing everybody, I know we're taking it all in and, taking it to heart and not like shutting down what these concerns are. What I've heard tonight is that it's not but the fact that it's a Waldorf school. It's not that the fact that it is even a school, but it's just the location because of what the neighborhood is losing. Maybe what I could ask us to do tonight is to open up our thinking to the fact that they're not asking, 100 Hills isn't asking to be on that site for the next 100 years or whenever. They're asking for an opportunity to get the school started so that families that live in Buellton, families that live in the surrounding area can have options for their children, as opposed to not being able to have a place for their young children to go. I spoke with a woman the other day who told me that the day her grandchild was born, after her daughter gave birth, she literally finished filling out an application where her child could go when she turned 2 or 3, drove to the school and slipped it under the door with the hopes that she would even get accepted. That's pretty critical. I've never heard it like quite to that level in any place that we've lived. And so, people want to have these options. And I'll just kind of close by saying, kind of what I mentioned a little bit before is that Waldorf schools really do want to work with the neighborhoods that they're in. And like I mentioned, with 3 schools that we were at, and I have visited numerous Waldorf schools, even Waldorf schools, some in Europe, all within communities for the most part. I can't actually think of one that's outside, but within communities. And they really want to work with the communities, embrace them. And at the Vancouver Waldorf School, there was a home that was built right next to the school for those the elderly and in need of care. And the residents in that area were just outraged that was even going to be put there. What the Waldorf School did was they connected with them. They made a relationship with them. They had children going over and singing to them for certain festivals or just for certain times, to really have the children like make things for them, maybe like knitting up blankets for them, connecting on a deep level. And that is something that I appreciate so much about Waldorf education. It's such a human education that builds on relationship, that wants to see the points of views of others and embrace them. I'm probably talking too long, but those I think are the highlights I want to make and the points that I want to make here this evening. And so thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Just a couple of points of clarification that I'll be happy to answer any more questions you might have.
as will Mrs. Tucker here. The first thing I wanted to bring up has to do with the bonds. Let's just get that out of the way. The condition number 40 refers to the release of bonds. These are not public obligation bonds. These are bonds that are required to be posted. They're essentially insurance policies that have to be provided by the developer to ensure that construction is completed. We hold those bonds, and so that in the event that construction is not completed to plan or to code, the city has the ability to go back in, retrieve those bonds, call them in, and use those funds to complete construction on their behalf. So there is no public funds involved in this. These are private funds. They actually have to pay money for those bonds, and they don't get to release them until the city council agrees to release those bonds. The condition here is simply states that there is a threshold before which those bonds cannot be released. So that's what that refers to. I want to hit a couple of other things. There was a question regarding the traffic generation and consideration of the Children's Museum. I will simply note, for the benefit of the public, whenever a project is proposed, we can't know what traffic will be generated in advance of construction so that we can then write a report on that. We have to write the report based on anticipated traffic prior to construction taking place. So when we did the traffic evaluation for this particular project, we, in the same manner that we projected the amount of traffic that would be generated by a school such as this, we also used the numbers that were projected for a children's museum of the sort that is proposed there. These are industry standard projection numbers put together by the Institute for Traffic Engineers, and they are essentially nationwide recognized and agreed upon numbers. That's what was used for that. There is a little bit of I want to say disagreement, but there have been changes to the California Environmental Quality Act in recent years. We used to base decisions on traffic significance on something called level of service. We still use level of service for our general plan standards, but for purposes of environmental review, we now use something called vehicle miles traveled, which is, don't even get me started. I think it was a bad decision all the way around. Nevertheless, that's what we are required to use. However, this project was reviewed from the standard of both VMT and LOS. Neither of them would have resulted in significant impacts under the established thresholds that we have. Lastly, I want to talk, real quick.
It's Irma.
I'm sorry. The distinction between the K through 4 versus K through 8. The application says K through 4. That was the information that the applicants gave us. They earlier tonight stated that their ultimate goal would be to build a K through 8 school, acknowledging that that would not happen here. They are limited, regardless of grade level, to 50 students. The plan, as it has been provided to us, is to start with kindergarten and preschool and essentially add a grade every year as those students move up and get older. Nevertheless, K through 4 is the limitation that has been established in the conditional use permit conditions, unless the commission chooses to change those. And 50 students total is what has been put into this report. And then I think I'll leave it at that. If you have any other questions or there are comments that I didn't hit that you want me to hit, please let me know.
I have a quick one about the open space element and whether or not that document may require view fencing. I think they proposed a solid fence, but is that? This is open mesh. It's metal mesh fencing. I think it might have originally come in as solid fencing. It was opened up. Okay.
Wire mesh fencing.
And then as far as I imagine that the city has discretion about whether or not they want to keep any improvements that are made in place.
Actually, there's not much discretion. Okay. We are, in addition to being subject to Surplus Lands Act and many other pieces of state legislation, one of the pieces that really reigns here is the prevailing wage requirements. And so we could have them build these improvements and leave them on site, but then they would have to pay prevailing wage, which would drive the cost of labor up considerably. So in our license agreement, there will be language crafted by our city attorney, which requires any improvements to be placed on the site to be removed prior to their departure. And that is to ensure compliance upfront with prevailing wage laws.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So then we're now at the point in our agenda where we have comments by the commission and deliberations on an action. So, Brian, are you willing to start?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Well, so thank you, everyone. You know, we come in here, I listen to everything. I've listened to everyone. I've read the comments from people who aren't here. We don't come in making a decision. I listen to everything. And, you know, at the end, we have to make a decision. And the decision that we come to has nothing to do, it's not a judgment on open education or the applicants or anything like that. It has to do with when we're approving a conditional use permit, does it fit within the general plan? Does it fit within the neighborhood character? I mean, that's the things that I have to think about. The public benefit to development has to be clear and meaningful, you know, for the public. There has to be limited impacts on traffic and things. And I think the applicants, I think they made some mitigation measures, but you know, a lot of times it's going to be unknown. It doesn't always work out that way, you know. The impacts can be big in some certain circumstances. Yes. You know, overall, any development must align with the city's long-term vision and plan. And, you know, I just don't, the classrooms, the architecture, I don't think it fits well with the overall neighborhood. Although, like I said, it's not a judgment on anything. It's just for planning, we have to make certain decisions. And that's all. Those are my comments.
Marcelo?
Yeah. Thank you for all the comments. I had 13 folks in favor of the project and 18 not quite in favor of the project. And some very notable folks like Holly and a former project or a planning commissioner over there. And I was thinking, you know, a lot of it, you talked about the traffic. Well, you know, they could shuttle from another location, just like, you know, how we bus over here at BUSD. So that can help mitigate a lot of the traffic. And I would, for myself and others, I think we should, that are concerned about preschool and kindergarten. I know BUSD, Buellton Unified School District, provides that with meal, and they're excellent teachers and classroom facilities. In fact, they built a whole new playground for over there in Oak Valley. The restrooms are hotel grade now. All new air conditioning units. That school is wonderful. So the taxes we pay, extra taxes we paid into from our community, they're being spent well over there. You should go take a look. But I'd like to know more about the preschool and the kindergarten access for your children. And I do hear what all of you are saying, and thank you for all your comments.
Sure. Just a few of the things that kind of struck me throughout the comments. One being that this came as a surprise to so many people. That kind of is a little alarming to me. I know that it was posted in newspapers and such, and mailers sent out to some schools, but it just seems to me that while I'm certainly in favor of school choice, that
this seems to be rushed towards a September deadline that is maybe not non-existent in my opinion. So I think there's certainly, you know, there's traffic studies, but there certainly seems like there could be more. So it feels that, you know, there's merits on both sides, to be honest, by looking at the planning department's report. But I think I think also, regardless of the decision here, I think there's, you know, at the end of the day, whichever way it goes, there's still opportunity to speak truth in mind, and everyone to speak their mind through city council and through their city councilors, because this is not just, you know, if a conditional permit gets approved, it's not just approved, there's still the actual licensing that has to be discussed as well.
Okay. I have comments that probably no one is gonna like. So, I mean, I will say, just preface this, in part, the reason that I chose with my family to buy a house here in Buellton is because almost all students, or almost all kids in this community, attend the same schools. And I feel strongly and fundamentally about that being good for the community when resources are shared and it's across all socioeconomic levels and there are shared opportunities in a community. I feel strongly about that. And I agree and empathize with the comments, both written and spoken, about how uses on public land should be publicly accessible. That said, I also feel strongly that schools, churches, those are routinely and usually located in residential zones. I personally live about 300 feet away from Hanada. And I have to say, I work from home multiple days a week, and I frankly barely notice it. It's a larger school. The number of average daily trips that are generated by this project are equivalent approximately to 14 or 15 single family homes. I don't want to minimize anything that people have said here or diminish it, but to me, that is not an insurmountable amount to accommodate, right? And like this proposed school, Hanada also utilizes collector streets. It's kind of similarly situated, actually. I just want to kind of demonstrate like what I'm considering as I'm coming to this this hearing and the things that we've heard. But to me, I don't necessarily think that this is inappropriate for the zoning. It's another question whether the city's priorities for public land can facilitate it. To me, that's two different questions. One is this conditional use permit that's before the Planning Commission, and the other is the lease agreement that'll be before the City Council. I do think if there are the votes to approve this project, there's a couple things that I would want entertained. And one is, I think bike parking's appropriate. And I would say that if approved, the lease should be coterminous with the school year. To me, that's logical, right? You don't want to end in May. And whatever that means for keeping the use under 5 years, so be it. And I think it's critical that Buellton has a long-term plan for public use of that area, so that we're not in a position where we have to make a decision and we have, you know, something on the horizon after the term of this lease, and there's no question about it. There can be community input. Everyone has been involved in that process. The other thing that kind of concerned me, and I think would need to be addressed if there are the votes for approval, is there's a couple mentions by members of the community, and in the discussion of the festivals in particular, that mention some additional uses that I don't think were included in the analysis of the site. For example, the homeschool groups also attending, like we have a maximum count of students, and so that's concerning to me. You know, trips from the public being included beyond just the families and students in those 7 events. not sure that that has been studied. I like the sentiment. I'm just saying from a perspective of land use and environmental review, it's important that we agree on what the project is and there's been a comprehensive review. And then I also think, I think it was Len that made this point. I want it to be crystal clear if there's votes for approval, that there's clarity, that there's no opportunity to renew or expand the license. So those are my thoughts. I'm not sure where we're pulling at the moment, but does anyone have any additional comments or thoughts before we attempt a motion?
We don't have to make a motion.
Yeah. We can float a motion and see what the votes are. If there is a motion made for approval, it would need to reflect the text in the slide that Irma shared with us with the CEQA action.
I move to disapprove the project.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, for the disapproval of Planning Commission Resolution 2507 as amended on the slide, Commissioner Campbell.
Nay.
Commissioner Kump.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sarkia.
Aye.
Chair Reese.
I'm going to say no at the moment, at least. I'm conflicted. I've walked through my reasoning. I mean, ultimately, this is going to be a council decision regardless,
right?
Because of the lease or license. I see some merit. I think there were some legitimate concerns also brought by the community. I don't know that I'm ready to approve it either. So
I believe the vote fails to disapprove.
Madam. Okay, let me explain that. In order to adopt a resolution, the Planning Commission has to have a majority of the seated Planning Commission voting in favor of a resolution. So in this case, if it's split 2-2, there is no decision to be made. There's not another, we can't wait a couple weeks for a planning commissioner to be seated. That won't happen for several months. So in the case of a 2-2 vote, this project is denied. We've learned our lessons since the days of In-N-Out, and on these contentious hearings, we have come prepared with a resolution for denial. In order to deny a project, the Planning Commission need only find that one of the findings that's required to approve a permit cannot be made. From my comments here, I have actually found two findings that appear not to be made. I can read those. The denial resolution itself simply spells out the permit and then spells out the fact that you were not able to make all 5 or 6 required findings, and therefore the project is denied. I have copies for this if you'd like, but let me read the findings one by one, and you can tell me whether you're in agreement with that. This is based upon what I've heard this evening. Finding number 1, or finding A, finding 1, the Planning Commission finds that the site for the project is not adequate in size, shape, location, and physical characteristics to accommodate the type of use and level of development proposed, because the proposed structures are similar, because the proposed structures are not similar in scale when compared to surrounding residential uses. The property is not zoned appropriately for this type of use. Finding 2, that streets and highways are, I didn't hear anything from the Planning Commission stating that streets and highways were inadequate. So that this would read that streets and highways are adequate and properly designed. Vehicular access to the site will be provided via Sycamore Drive through the existing Riverview Park East lot and access road. Finding number 3, There are adequate public services included but not limited to fire protection, water supply, sewage disposal to serve the project. Conditions of approval have been added pertaining to requirements of the Public Works Department and County Fire Department. With the inclusion and satisfaction of conditions of approval, the Public Works Department is able to provide water service to the project. With the inclusion of conditions of approval pertaining to fire department requirements, adequate fire protection will be provided to the project. Finding number 5, that the Planning Commission finds that the project will be detrimental to the health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the neighborhood and will not be compatible with the surrounding area. And then that was the second of the 2 that the Planning Commission were not able to make. The last one, the Planning Commission is able to make, I think, there's 2 more. That the project is in conformance with the applicable provisions of the Title 19 of the Municipal Code and the General Plan with the imposition of conditions of approval. The project complies with the General Plan and Title 19. The project primarily sits on 3 separate and distinct city-owned properties. Compliance with the municipal code and zoning standards has been measured based on the fact that the 3 separate lots function as one singular lot and therefore lot coverage, setback requirements, and other applicable standards have been met. Further, the municipal code allows for exemptions to maximum height standards for fences in the RS zone. And then lastly, actually, I'm gonna add this one to the list of not based on your comments. That the proposed development is not in conformance with the community design guidelines because proposed yurt structures, I'm just going to leave it at that. They're not in conformance with the community design guidelines because the yurt structures are not architecturally compatible with the neighborhood. We'll leave it at that. And then we can dispense with the rest of this. Otherwise, those are the findings that all of which need to be made in order to approve this based upon your vote and the discussion you've had. These are the findings I think you're stating. If I've misstated any of these, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, this is the resolution we will prepare and have the chair sign after the meeting.
Thank you.
So essentially, if there aren't 3 votes for approval, then we need to proceed with these findings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do need to have 3 votes in favor to adopt a resolution of approval.
Okay. Should we try a motion for approval, see where it leaves us, and then proceed with the second set of findings as appropriate?
Didn't we just go 3-1 in denial?
2-2.
2-2 in denial.
Oh.
Is there an opportunity for us to respond to the findings that were conclusive?
Not at this point.
If
there aren't 3 votes for approval, and like I said, I mean, there are things that I would like studied if we were considering approval. And so
the commission can adopt a resolution to approve. The commission can adopt a resolution to deny. Without a resolution, the project will be deemed essentially denied. Another alternative is for the Planning Commission to request that staff take the comments you've given and refer it to the City Council for their decision.
Okay. And if there's essentially a non-vote because it's a tie, it's appealable by the applicant to the City Council regardless.
That's correct.
All roads lead to City Council.
They all do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know a lot of people have invested a lot of time and effort to get to this point and also just to be here to provide comment.
I think we should hand it over to the City Council.
I'm open to
decision.
I mean, they're essentially responsible for negotiating and finalizing the lease regardless. And these 2 things, neither of them moves forward without both of them moving forward through that channel.
And that gives them a chance to restate their comments and give it another go.
I mean, should we make a motion again for the denial with those findings? And if it's 2-2? goes to the council.
I'll motion to deny it again.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, for the motion to deny, Commissioner Gamble,
Nay.
Commissioner Cobb,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sarkia,
Aye.
Chair Reese.
Nay.
Vote fails 2-2.
All right, I will take this as a denial. It will effectively be a denial of the project, failure to make a decision, which will result in this moving to the city council. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, thanks again for everyone who came here, and hate to have essentially a non-decision when you've invested all this time, but alas, there's a
council or 4 commissioners. That's how we're at.
It is indeed, and it's headed to them anyway. So
Thank you.
thank you. We gotta close the meeting.
It's not our neighbor. It's not to the kids that are going to comment. It's I know. So what are the taking?
We're not going to that meeting.
Still close the meeting. No worries. No worries.
So if we can take the conversations outside, the meeting's not finished yet. If we can take all of the conversations outside, please. The meeting has not been concluded yet.
All right. Thank you, guys. All right. Yeah. All right. So other business, seeing none, we'll move to written communications. Are there any written communications to share?
We have no written communications this evening.
Okay. Planning commissioner comments. Anything coming up that you'd like to share with the group? Okay. Planning director report.
I don't remember after this meeting.
Yeah.
As you're all aware, the planning director, Andrea Kiefer, is out on vacation at the moment, could not be here tonight. I'm sure she's really disappointed at having to miss this meeting. So be sure and give her some grief when she does come back. But I would like to thank all of you as well as the public that attended tonight. It was a difficult meeting. It's a difficult issue. It's full of all sorts of decisions that are land use decisions interwoven with higher policy decisions, which makes it very difficult for everyone to address. There clearly is a split on the part of community members. We will take this to the city council, and we will do our best to ensure that your comments and concerns from the planning commission are presented to the city council. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shannon, you did a great job for managing this meeting.
Thank you.
Yes.
You and Mr. Wall.
Well, we appreciate all the participants and also just the focus on community and being present. So thank you for that. And with that, I will call the meeting to order at 9:15.
Great job. Adjourn.